First item. Selby introducing.
Yep.
Our artificial intelligence policy.
Sure.
And it's not directed at you guys, right?
Yeah, they don't have, they have real intelligence.
They got-
Not the
Yeah.
artificial.
Clarification?
Yeah, just to clarify, I just didn't want you to get offended.
Nor towards you either, right?
So in your packets tonight, is a draft, AI, artificial intelligence, AI policy. The mayor and I have been going to plenty of trainings where cities are being encouraged to adopt an AI policy. But one of the biggest concerns about it is records retention, which is in Andrea's domain. She brought this one to me. What you're seeing before you is based on and basically a copy of Wenatchee's AI policy that they adopted. We didn't really add much or take much away from it. We thought if it worked for them, it might work well for us. And so that's before you for your review. And if you have any suggested changes or concerns, please let us know and we can adapt. And if you are in favor of this, we'll bring it forward for you in a form of a resolution at a future meeting.
Questions?
I have a question.
Oh, yeah,
Hi, folks. Sorry, I'm not there. I'm on the west side.
you made it over at least.
I did make it over, but I'm not making it back. There's a lot of snow on the passes. And Highway 2 has been closed for hours. So, question on the AI policy. Can I get a little context on the impetus of this policy coming from, I assume, maybe staff and the mayor? Just curious where this is coming from so that I can kind of articulate my review a little bit more focused.
Yeah, it's largely coming from the need for records retention and records requests. That's why Andrea brought it to me as city clerk. But again, it's as the mayor's gone to AWC trainings and I've gone to WCMA trainings. It is strongly recommended that cities adopt AI policies of some sort.
Gotcha. So it's more of a staff directive,
Yes.
right? Just using AI and verifying the information that is drawn from AI.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Sure.
Is there a charge
Charge.
to join, money wise, like $200,000 to be?
Well, there are some AI tools that are fee-based. There are some AI tools that are free. This policy actually directs staff to try to use free ones as much as possible. No staff has brought to me the desire to use a paid AI service. I know some of us do use ChatGPT on occasion, and I'm not aware of any other AI tools that our staff is using currently.
They don't use Copilot or
Claude.
Not that we're aware of.
But it may, and that's, part of this, the impetus for this is because it is getting used. And so when something's getting used, you need a policy or it could come back and bite you. And that's, again, records retention is a big one, and records retention in the AI field, while not completely vetted out all the way, it's still, not only is the finished product a public record, but also anything that was created by the software, the chat has to be retained as well. So your retention goes much deeper with AI than if you were just drafting something yourself. So that's part of, and you get the horror stories where people get caught doing things and people using it and not declaring and all of that stuff. So it's just trying to get aware and ahead of the fact that this is a new tool and a new reality, and we need to deal with it.
I have one more question. This isn't
Sure.
something that we have to bring or consult with legal counsel on, right?
We
I will send it to
Yeah,
Tom. I
yeah.
haven't yet, but just to get your guys'
Okay.
initial.
Yeah, we want to
review of
get
it, but I
something
will
that
send it
we're,
before the next.
yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, I wasn't sure.
So I don't know if I misheard you down here, but did you say that you're encouraging people to use the free versions?
Yes.
It's
Under considerations, it says paid subscriptions to generative AI platforms may offer more favorable terms and conditions and are generally preferred over free. So I want to make sure we're consistent there
Fair enough.
and why, knowing why one or the other is preferred to be good.
Okay.
Do we have a clear preference?
No, well, again, no one's asked me for budget approval or
Right.
for a paid. The Microsoft tool, I believe, does come with the city's Microsoft 365 subscription. I haven't used that because I started using ChatGPT before that was available to us. But you're right, the policy does say that paid subscriptions are favorable. This was with ACHIs that I did.
Yeah.
That's okay, but that's why we're here,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, right.
And I'm just curious if, the reason for that is that for retention reasons.
Yeah,
right?
and
So if that's the
that's
case, then we
it.
should be considerate of that when we're moving forward with that.
Right, and I think that's why a lot of them have gone to a paid, because with that paid comes all of that data retention online. They keep it all so that it's there for that. So that's one of the things that is a consideration. And again, I, quite frankly, whether we do that right up front, I think eventually we will have to go to that. Some paid form of it, just because it's going to get more and more use and more integrated into just about anything that you do, as you know, so.
I am actually looking, at, after the next council meeting, I've got some time on my hands. I'm gonna talk to our IT people if they have a way to capture, like if we all use the same platform, do they have a way to capture searches or records retention and things like that? So I have a little bit more information to gather, but it's just nice to have a policy in the meantime so it probably will be a paid version if we are all on the same thing. But more to come.
Yes.
Ann has a question.
Anne has her hand up.
And again,
Hi, I can give you some insight specifically associated with Copilot since I use it all the time. It has great records retention. Each individual who has Microsoft 360 and has their own login has their own access to Copilot, and it keeps a historical log of all of your prompts and searches and records requests and those sorts of things. And based on the dynamic nature of your prompts, you can tell it to do internal searches of certain documents as well for information so that you have links in the Copilot response to the documents that it has searched internally to provide you the feedback. And then you can also, kind of keep that as a historical document reference as well.
Okay. Good to know. Thank you, Anne.
You're welcome.
Once there's a document in there, if you want to take it out, could you?
I would recommend any AI searches that you always verify links and that sort of thing, but that also helps you determine what you should be disclosing if it's a public records request or something like that. So yeah, you can definitely, it'll show links in the answer once you prompt AI in various different ways, depending upon how you're asking the question and telling it what to look for.
but that's the records retention is because it does have to stay.
Oh, it has to stay.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's why you need a system that will make sure it captures it and backs it up, because it's part of your record. And it can be disclosed, needs to be disclosed if somebody's doing a search and you did X, Y, Z, and you had used an AI tool. All that AI did, all the behind the scenes metadata, whatever they call it.
Mhm.
It's for fact checking too, right? Fact checking what the city pushes out as far as using AI. Like the example was Deloitte recently with like the city of Cleveland. They used AI, they didn't really disclose it, and then like the contract was for like $5 or $6 million that the city paid for Deloitte to do this big project. And they were citing sites and sources that weren't real. And it's like, hey, and they're like, oh, yeah, hey, Roger, did you use AI? He's like, oh yeah. And the city's like, this is not real. And it came up recently. It was a big city government thing. So
Yeah.
the sources that AI can pull from, they kind of make stuff up sometimes to make it fit.
Yeah.
And so that's why that data is important for people to look at and say, oh, well, you're drawing from this. Oh, that's real. That's fair. And kind of fact check layers on layers of, records.
Yeah, it's still a new tool and does some of those things that it'll get better. It'll get better at getting the real facts, but in the meantime,
So do we eventually vote on?
eventually we'll have a policy, but yeah,
Okay.
but not right now. Again, this is a first look and it needs tweaking and research, but we just wanted to get it before you and let you know why we're moving forward with this.
Can someone in the audience ask a question?
We've done the check register.
Right. Yeah. This really is in our discussion time with, yeah, right. This is just for the. You're just learning, right? You're just here learning. These are just council time to go over things that eventually would come more for public consumption, but for now, it's just. All right, we'll move on then to roundabout art design and selection process. Go ahead, Selby.
Thanks, Mayor. At your July 8th study session, we discussed whether the council wanted to move forward with some kind of gateway feature at the roundabout at Highway 2 and High School Road. When this was being designed, the city put aside a budget of $150,000 of lodging taxes for some kind of gateway feature. So I asked you guys if you wanted to move forward with that, and the answer was yes. During that presentation, we talked about some of the art that's in roundabouts. In particular, Bend, Oregon has a very impressive roundabout art program. So I reached out to Art and Public Spaces, which is the organization that is responsible for the roundabout art program in Bend. It's a nonprofit organization which is funded by the Brooks Resources, a real estate developer, through the Bend Foundation. And this is a nonprofit that runs this program for the city of Bend. And I learned a little bit about how they do their process. One is creating a committee. They have a nonprofit organization. They basically have a committee made up of their membership. It would be a little different for us. We would have to create an ad hoc committee. I would propose an ad hoc committee of 1-year term. And we can discuss composition of that committee at another time. What they do is we would definitely have to be in lockstep with WashDOT, and she recommends having the city engineer or a staff engineer on this committee as well. I would propose that as we hire this new recreation tourism manager, that we have this person drive this process, because it's a tourism installation that we're going to be doing. So they have this committee, then they do there's a website out there that does a call for, it's basically a call for proposals. And it's a website. It'll cost a little bit of money to put it up there, but what that does, you can say, we want artists who are 3D artists to send us their portfolios. We want to find people who are interested in creating a piece of art for the city's roundabout. What they have is a budget of $130,000 for each roundabout art piece that they do. 6,000 of that goes to the city for maintenance. They spend 140,000 to the artist, and they put $10,000 in a fund for preservation over the years. We talked a lot about, you don't want to make it too tall that it can't be maintained. You don't want to make it so short that it's an attractive nuisance. When we discussed in July, I discussed my concern about having it be a place where people want to go and take selfies. So I discussed that with her, and she said, yeah, you want to make it tall enough so that it's not practical for someone to take a selfie from but not so tall that it's difficult to clean and maintain over the years. The way they do it is they do this call and then they get proposals from artists who are interested. They go through them and she focused very much on you need people who are not 2D artists, but 3D artists. You need people who are used to making sculpture. And the committee reviews them and they select their top 3. The top 3 artists, they then give them a $1,500 stipend to visit their city and become inspired. So if we were going to go with that program, we would do that. That would come out of the budget for this. Those 3 artists then come in, they would come to Leavenworth, they'd stay, eat, drink, get inspired by the city, and then create 3D drawings, CAD drawings of what they're proposing. They use a public process where they put it up on a website, they engage with the community, and they get the community to vote. But they don't take it's not necessarily whichever piece gets the most votes is the one that wins. What they do is they take that information from the public input and they have that shape that committee's decision. So that committee will be charged with having the final decision for which artist to go. They then contract with the artist to fabricate and install. So it would be on the artist to build whatever is selected and to come into town and install it in the roundabout. They said they typically have them installed when it's not too disruptive to traffic. When they're looking through the design, they do 16 by 20 inch posters. So maybe we could display them at the fast hall or display them here at the library and have people come along and review and get the public to input. That's on display for 2 to 3 weeks. And it's on their website as well. Then they make the decision, they contract with the artist fabricates the piece and then they bring it in and install it. So it's a contract with the artist to provide this art, which then this nonprofit then hands over to the city of Delta. So I just wanted to discuss that process with you and see if that sounded like sound okay. That's what you were envisioning for a design competition for our roundabout gateway design. Shane?
Shelby, do you know who did the art piece in Wenatchee?
I don't.
Okay.
I do not.
Seems like that was a really good contact. Just some of the considerations that are passing along is really nice. We don't have to we
don't have to reinvent. And that was why I reached out to her. I didn't want to have to reinvent the wheel. They have, I don't know the number. You can go to their website, roundabout art.
Quite a few.
Ben, dozens at this point. I think I've heard Ben referred to as the city of roundabouts.
So I've gone through this process with my uncle in Tempe, and he's an established artist. Back in the 90s, you go into Borders bookstore and 5 different covers would be illustrated by him. And then I got into 3D art, and so he's this well-known artist. Then he got into like sculptures and plasma cut sculptures of past mayors, and now he's done stuff all over the country with big, large format stuff. And in July, I reached out to him and was asking about this process. And he's familiar with the website that artists can go through and submit and vet. And one of the horror stories was the city of Scottsdale. It is one of this gateway done, and ultimately he got the project. This big white rabbit. It's always this like, why does this white rabbit have to do with Old Town Scottsdale? It's this funny kind of thing, like all these different reasons people come up with. Oh, it's that tequila bar, or it's this white tequila, and like it's just a funny thing. But it's this huge plasma cut white rabbit that you would think about in a roundabout. Ultimately, it was another artist that got it, and he didn't get the award. And the horror story was they changed the price so much that it wasn't even close to the $150,000. It was going to be $250,000. And it's just, these things happen. So these are the dangers of it. Yeah. And so I'd be hesitant having someone spearhead it with the Parks and Rec person, the tourism, this new position leading this. Like it could be, we can get in real trouble with that. I think finding the right board or the right group to kind of with local artists and kind of vet through this whole process would be great.
I definitely want a committee made of community members, not necessarily the council and staff.
Yeah, right. And so I think local artists first, and we didn't have our criteria too, right? I think local artists number 1, if there are plastic cut or 3D, artists. But again, there's so many artists out there that are roundabout artists that it's beyond just level with.
In Bend, they limit theirs to the West Coast, is what she said. They actually, Texas, New Mexico, Oregon, Washington, California are the states that Bend limits their draw for their call for artists from.
Again, the artist, I mean, you wouldn't get somebody from Becky's too, because I think there's a big outcry. The cost of public art was this whole big thing in the 90s in Arizona. And he lost money on it because the statue it cost so much money to laser cut the plasma, and he didn't do that. So it's just the artist, they think, oh, this artist is pocketing $50,000 in this statue. It just costs so much. So I think you'll naturally find people that are.
And are we kind of thinking what we're going for is something within 150,000?
Yeah.
So there's a
Yeah.
limit right there. So
We established the budget, and the budget would include installation.
Yeah.
One of the things one cautionary tale she gave me was the city of Sisters, Oregon, did a call to artists twice, and they scrapped both of them because she said that every artist was proposing to things that tried to represent everything of that city, and she says you can't put everything that Leavenworth is into one piece of art. So it's up to the artist to figure out what element of our city that they want to highlight with that art. And have your hand up.
Didn't we go into the roundabout with another group?
Oh, the link.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Link.
Yeah.
Yeah, Link paid for it.
This was-
Link doesn't care, they just said go for it.
No, well, it's not their roundabout anymore. They financed the engineering and construction. It's WashDOT's roundabout.
Okay.
So we'll have to work closely with WashDOT,
Okay.
and that's the first point of contact we would make is with that.
Okay.
And had a hand up.
Hi, guys. So I think that it would be really beneficial if we consider creating an ad hoc committee out of city council members. And I'm open to inviting some of the community into that ad hoc committee, but I think that one of the first things that we would need to establish as far as an ad hoc committee is concerned is parameters on what we're looking for an installation of art. I think that it needs to be Bavarian themed and or outdoor recreation themed. And I think that we need to define specific parameters. And when we ultimately pick some sort of artist, there will be a contract that controls the budget where we can easily reimburse them for their costs, and it can't go over $150,000 of reimbursement based on kind of how we outline everything. So I'm not too concerned with anything going over budget because they'll just be held accountable. But I really think that the city council needs to take the lead on defining the parameters of what we want in the middle of the roundabout, and also considering specific parameters associated with public safety and not being a public nuisance, as Selby had recommended, because a lot of that really needs to be clearly defined before we start this conversation with artists.
Yeah, good point, Ann. I think.
I saw a family this morning all congregating in front of the Welcome sign.
Oh, yeah.
Town, taking their photo.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, as a fallback, it could just be a bunch of flower boxes.
Yeah. Now people are gonna want pictures then too.
So, Ann, did I hear from you, you'd like to see an ad hoc committee of the council only, and then have that committee then figure out the composition of a larger committee, including community members?
Well, I don't know if this needs to include the community or not. I mean, we are tasked as a council with figuring out how to spend our $150,000 that we've allocated in the budget for this. So it doesn't necessarily need to be expanded beyond the city council. That's obviously up for council discussion, but I think that an ad hoc committee would be a great place to start. And then that committee can define the boundaries with regard to what we're looking for with artists, theme, design, some of those parameters, public safety, those sorts of things. And then we could really start the solicitation process.
And how about in January, when we get the new council on board and we're doing committee assignments, we include an ad hoc roundabout art committee to that list?
You took the words right out of my brain, Selby.
I do think that we should, with council being the critical mass here, I do think there's folks we should include from the committee, I mean, from the community that have some, how we select them, but would have some really great input on that. So I don't think it should be only council folks. I think we need to have, two or whatever, but not just strictly council members. So we've got too much talent in this town not to take advantage of that.
I'll take your lead, council member. So
I agree that we should have some counsel on it, and I think we should pull from community, some specialists, per se. Somebody who's got some experience with art.
how big a committee do you think would be effective?
15?
That's really big.
I think 2 or 3 council and 2, 3 citizens.
Okay.
Nothing more than that.
We can hope something.
I recommend 5.
A total of 5,
Mm-hmm.
supported by 2 staff people, and the engineer has to be part of this.
Yeah.
And potentially the RTM position could lead it.
Do like Ridgefield, they planted grapes for wine in their roundabout and made their own wine and distribute. Yeah, it was crazy.
Interesting.
It was interesting how much wine was produced out of a roundabout.
Who did this?
Ridgefield, it's a town, Washington.
Home of the In-N-Out Burger.
Yeah,
Wow.
I don't, I'm not looking to.
We're not gonna
It was
hear anything
interesting.
like that.
Yeah, he actually brought it, he was on the AWC board and brought some of their wine, roundabout wine.
Huh.
So it was blocked from the children getting into it, wasn't it?
All right. Review of rate and fee schedule changes. Yes. Who's taking
So-
this?
I will say that I reached out to Ashley with the local event company, and she did not make any changes for 2027. She didn't think that was prudent, so.
I'll go next.
Okay,
In the write-up, I did identify that the PRSA board did recommend no rate increases. Part of the problem was with the property tax collection this year. They just didn't want to cause too many more ripples. However, we did put in an add-on option for season passes. And it's simple math. The full rate of the pass divided by, we set a limit of 6 people per pass. And so the rate, whether you're PRSA or outside PRSA, is divided by that 6, and that's the add-on price for each additional person that they want to add.
I don't have anything new to add since the last time I brought this.
I think that if you have a family, like I did with 6 children, and it was expensive then, I mean, to me, with that big a family, I think that your family should be able to come in, that live in your house, your husband and your children.
That is up for
Yeah.
discussion between the council if they want to change the 6 limit that was recommended by Manager Lemons and somewhat discussed by the board.
Mhm.
Travis,
No.
Shane, do you want to provide any additional thoughts?
I think that was the point was like, looking at, not all families are the same size, but to have an add-on option. If you do have more than 6, you can add on.
If you have more than 6, I didn't read that in here. I mean, because probably most people don't have 6, they're coming in with 2, 3. And so if you have a couple of families that do have a larger family, you're not hurting anything financially.
Yeah, so what that is also people with grandparents or other people that come in and out through the summer that will be caretakers for the kids or take them to the pool or use the pool themselves, right? Those are people that are kind of borrowing passes and kind of skirting the system and kind of taking more time up with the staff at the counter. I mean, It's just an add-on. It's a less expensive pass.
Well, just put that in here and instead of limiting a family that has more than 6 kids that live in their house with them here in Leavenworth, pay their taxes, blah, blah, blah. And if grandma shouldn't be on it, then make it, the pass is not for grandma or whoever else you said.
Sharon, you're saying if they're in the household.
If they live in the
household,
house, yeah.
Yeah, wouldn't, so whatever that is, they're in with the family pass.
Okay, well, I don't read it that way.
No, that's what
I'm
you're
asking.
saying.
That's what you're saying.
Say, should be.
I'm saying it should be,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I kind of think that's
It's
valid.
not like you're gonna add 100 people.
Right, I mean, I think if it's an intact family that's living here in that same house, that's their address. What you're gonna gain by adding, or what you're gonna lose is minimal, not having to be an add-on, I think. How many families? I just think it makes sense just that if they're in the family, in their house, like she was saying, they're on the family pass, plain and simple.
I believe Kelly's concern, the reason that she brought this to the PRSA board was there's been several instances, many instances, she says, where it's a family of 4, 2 parents, 2 kids. When grandma's in town, they want grandma to come in for free. When the parent isn't available, they want a babysitter to come in and bring the kids in for free. And those are not adults that are part of the household who should be allowed into, should be allowed on that family pass. So we could make some tweaks to it and we can do household up to whatever, but additional adults should be charged additional.
Yeah, well, I worked there and there was a year where this family had there were 20 people that were coming in and they didn't live in the house. They were when grandma came to visit. Well, that grandma, they need to pay for grandma when she comes to visit. And instead of making, like in my family, I would have had to pay a lot more than the pass just to get the kids that live in my house with me, my own kids.
That's good feedback, Sharon. I think we can tweak this.
Yeah, add on per adult.
Yeah.
Per adult, instead of per
Thanks.
person, adult.
Yeah.
Very
thanks.
fair. That's totally fair.
So the family pass is for parents and their kids
Yes,
who live under the same.
yes.
Yeah,
Add
because
on a
it
caretaker,
even got
$30.
into when dad has the kids, if they're separated and dad comes to get the kids, that dad should be able to, I mean, there's been a whole lot of things come. So I think just this way, but make it that if you have more than 6 kids that live in your house. And then if you've got a kid in the service, I mean, we went through a whole passel of things, but I think this sets it if you've got more than 6, you can bring them in. Not a lot of people will.
No, I don't think they will these days.
I'm wondering how we want to approach that because we left it with limit 6 people so that Kelly and potentially Selby could, from an administrative perspective, work that number. Is it 1 adult, 5 children, if that's what the family's made up of? So we were specifically trying to avoid adult versus children in the language to give the flexibility. The discussion was, if there's more than 6 people, is this going to affect anyone? And if I recall correctly, Kelly was pretty certain that 6 was probably around the maximum that she could think of, because she doesn't have any current families that have 7, 8, 9 children in their family. So the 6 is where that number came from. With the language the way it is, they're still going to have an administrative way to accept something different. Is that flexible enough, or are we needing to change this language right here?
Anne's got her hand up.
Yeah, Anne's got it here.
And
Hi, guys. I actually really like the recommendation of a maximum of 6 people as a recommendation for a family. I think that allows for some flexibility for smaller family nuclear units while also not punishing those smaller families for a cost differential across individuals on a family pass. I feel like there's more equity in defining the number of individuals that can be on a family pass rather than just having it be open-ended depending upon how large your family is. For smaller families, it gives a little bit more flexibility. And for larger families, it requires you to be a little bit more definitive of who is on your pass and noting who those 6 individuals are, which is all very common for various different swim and fitness memberships and season passes along multiple different types of organizations.
Limit, yeah, I mean, limit 6 people is great. I think that's in there, but I think we're talking about the add-on per adult. Just the add-on above 6. So the 7th person is the adult versus a person, like you said, versus another child. It's an adult has to pay that extra.
Well, I
right?
think some of the built-in flexibility is associated with depending upon how large your nuclear family is, right? If it's like a mom and 4 kids, you have an empty 6th space and you can add grandma or grandpa on there or aunt
Right.
that comes all the time and takes everybody to the pool, versus like the full 6-person family. If there's a 7-person family, then you pay for the add-on and then you have a 7-person family membership that costs a little bit more.
Yeah, that was the intent.
Right.
With just leaving it as people in person.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you have 3 adults and 3
Right.
children, because maybe one of those adults is grandma.
Yeah. Or you've got mom, stepdad, and aunt that are all highly visible and involved in the kids' lives and those sorts of things. So I think that that really helps us build in some flexibility without over regulating this and creating more work for staff.
Right.
It requires the people who are getting the family pass to discern who those 6 people are, and it doesn't put a big burden on the staff.
So you think if we change the language to add-on option per adult, that's going to add an additional burden to the staff?
No, I don't. I think that
Right.
works on a larger family. People have the option to add someone on, and it doesn't have to be an adult. If they want to add another kid onto their family, because they have a large family, that's an option as well.
So are you saying if you had another kid, you don't have to pay for them? They fall onto the pass because they live in your house?
No,
That
we're talking about an add-on costing once you're past that 6-person threshold, regardless of how you discern your family unit.
So she's taking that, we're going back to this language,
Mhm.
Sharon.
Yeah, I hear so, yeah.
I know, I'm kind
I
of, I
disagree,
hear,
but
I'm with
who
you.
am I?
No, we're in discussion here. I think it's a fair argument.
Yeah, I'm inclined to lean towards Ann's argument, and we're not saying you're limited to 6 people. It's just that if you're over 6, you gotta pay $30. It is equitable. I mean, I know it does cost money when you have a huge family, but you chose to have a huge family, and you know that when it comes time to figure out what vehicle to buy and putting clothes on your kids when it comes time to go clothes shopping. I mean, that's just the nature of having a big family, and I don't think that we need to make a policy that accommodates that necessarily. This is what it costs to do business and provide that service to the community.
I think the spirit of this was there were so many people, adults, using the passes, right? And so, I mean, that's kind of the spirit of this too, right? It's just the people that are the grandparent or the other people, the caretakers who are also jumping on this family pass.
It's setting a limit to that, so you don't get 6 different adults trying to say that, well, we're taking care of it, right? I mean, you just put a limit. 6, period.
Well, and I
However you
think it
add that.
requires a little bit more onus on the season's pass holder when you're originally establishing your season's pass, where it can't be just free for all. Any
Right.
6 people with the pass can walk through the door. I don't think that should be it. I think it should be specific people should be on the pass, and if you have others that want to attend, they need to pay to get through the door.
Yeah, but I don't quite understand why if you just say household members only, how that gets complicated. If you have 70 household, they're all living there. Why is that more complicated than, I mean,
Than 6?
yeah, I mean, like, that's where they live. So why wouldn't they all be on the pass without an add-on?
Because people are skirting the system and it's just creating more work for staff because they're just going to trade passes and it just creates more work with the new Rex, with the way we have the check-in system now where you're checking in. They need to have their own individual. It's tied to it's a pass.
Somehow-
It's like a ski pass. Like you don't go,
Yeah.
you can't, you know that. You can't share with your buddies and
Right.
with a ski pass. It's like your ski pass, it's tied to you, swim pass, it's tied to you, tied to you, tied to you, tied to you.
Right, but don't you walk in and say, these are the people I verified, these are my folks? I mean, is that the question that's being abused, that people are saying, claiming someone's in the household when they're really not? Is that part of our issue here?
What's been said to me is that it's people bringing in grandma, granddad, the nanny, the babysitter.
Who obviously are not part of
And
it.
expecting them to be, to come in entry free, as part of that family's pass.
Okay,
And not necessarily obvious. I mean, the staff has to discern if these are, is that your sister or your niece or your cousin, or it takes it off the 18-year-old working the desk.
I guess I'm
to
not
call
quite
people out.
understanding why, I just don't quite understand why, if you state, when you fill out for the season's pass, you say, here are my family members, we got five kids and 2 parents. We're all on this household. This is us. That's it. You take, you say this is what it is, and that's where it stops. I mean, is that too trusting, or is that like?
Well, it's that you make those teenagers have to argue with those adults who come and say, wait a minute, this is their caregiver, they're there every day, they need to be able to get on our pass so that they can have our kids.
Yeah.
I mean, and the onus goes on the teenagers to stand
hold
up
the
for
line.
adults. If they don't have it, again, sorry, you've already got your 6, that's it.
Yeah, I guess I'm just thinking, when you apply for your season's pass, like you do for cross-country skiing or whatever, and you say, this is who we are, and then that's, you don't renegotiate that every time you come in, you just, it's done, so.
And we hope to get there with Rec Desk, with the photos and the new
Yeah.
system. We weren't able to really utilize it to its full capacity this year, and what it can do and what it will look like, because it was such a rush season.
Yeah,
This is not set in stone either.
right,
I think that letting Kelly run with this for 1 year to see how it works out, or work out any additional kinks. Maybe we bring this back to you next year and we have a different recommendation.
Right.
Maybe we do raise it to 8. Maybe it does define 4 children to adults.
right,
I'm not quite sure where she wants to land, but when she came to me and came with this language, it was let's leave it vague, 6 people. And then administratively, her and Selby will make those decisions for
Right.
the next season.
Hmm.
And of course, she'll keep the PRSA apprised of how that goes, because we're gonna ask.
right, right,
And we will review this rate fee schedule again next year. So I'm sure it will be a very hot topic of how did that go?
right,
Another thing that's in here that we didn't utilize this year either was the 10 punch pass.
Right.
And we put that one in, and the summer was short with the late opening, and no one even asked about it, and we just never even implemented it. That one's gonna be an option for next year too.
And you had your hand up again?
Yeah. I think we need to be careful about over-regulating this and overthinking it. I don't think that it should necessarily be tied to everybody living at the same address, because very often grandparents, aunts, and uncles will take kids to a pool and it's not everybody living under the same roof. But I do think that it's important that when a family pass is purchased, that the users and their names are explicitly defined so that
Right.
there isn't sharing of the pass amongst more than 6 people. So I think that that's an important key to this.
Yeah, I mean, just one more thing. It's basically like buying a ski pass. Like, I don't know if Stevens or Mission Ridge limit how many people are on a family pass, but it would be the same thing. Like you get a certain number of people on your path, and then that's it.
We don't even have a family pass at Stevens, it's individuals. Our own ski hill limits how many kids you can have on a family pass.
So I'm thinking the dependent, like when people work up there, they have dependents. Like,
Oh, yeah.
Are there other things in the rate schedule?
I just want to point out, the parking advisory committee on Thursday did discuss 2 new programs. One is a residential permit program. That's for people who live within the PRSA. Whereby they would register their license plates with a parking department, and that would allow them to get up to 3 hours of parking for $1 an hour per day. Any stay over 3 hours will be at market rate. And again, it is limited to residents within the PRSA, full-time residents that to have their car registered to an address in the PRSA. The other is an employee parking program, $50 a month for our employees downtown. They'll have to prove that they are employed downtown. And that $50 a month will allow them to park in Blue Annex, and then any lot on the north side of Highway 2. And these were put into the rate and fee schedule. Not saying these are going to be rolled out just yet. We're still looking into it and discussing it, but I did ask Dan to go ahead and put these in the rate and fee schedule so that they're there for us to implement when the time comes. Shane?
Yeah, I tried to join the park advisory committee, but I had to leave due to work. But my question was why it was recommended to do the PRSA boundary and not the Cascade School District boundary.
Cascade School District boundary is much larger than the PRSA boundary.
Right.
And also it's an incentive to get folks who are in the Cascade School District, but not within the PRSA, to agree to join the PRSA boundary when the question is asked of them in the next year or two.
Okay, thank you.
They're paying right. Well, yeah, Plain is the school district.
We can say that PRSA residents do pay taxes that do eventually come to the city. I cannot say the same for folks in the school district who are outside the PRSA.
Selma, you're saying that folks, when they go to the pool, they're still gonna have to pay? Because,
Yeah, the taxes are the base. Every person who goes to the pool, PRSA member or not, has to pay to enter the pool.
so there isn't any free parking for pool users during the time the pool's open?
During the time the pool is open, your entry to the pool gets you parking.
Oh, okay,
That won't change.
that's what but this is something else.
This is something else.
This is in response to the request we've had for years to have what was always offered up was free parking for residents, free parking for locals. So what is a local? What is a resident? And why free? Those are the questions I ask. We've been discussing this for a while. We've looked at other cities that have residential permit programs in a paid parking environment. And this is what we've come up with as our recommendation.
So so this applies,
To all lots.
On street, any lot,
oh, okay,
maximum 3 hours, $1 an hour.
so that's kind of a response to residential parking.
Right.
$1 an hour
$1 an hour for 3 hours.
for 3 hours.
Every day, automatic.
I know there's a lot of work that went into this, and I can see where you landed where it is, and I think it's great. Because one of my biggest concerns is we open up parking to locals, and then we're back to where we were in the beginning, where you can't find parking because people are just parking there because it's free. And I don't want that. But I also do think it's nice to give a nod to people, give them a chance to come into town and not park in my driveway. So I like it. Nothing's ever gonna be perfect, but I think it's a great solution.
Another change that we're discussing and I'll be proposing for next year is to close this parking lot to City Hall and library use only, Monday through Friday. And on the weekends, have it available to library patrons, of course, but have this become the employee lot.
For downtown employees.
So that on those busy weekends, they will be more likely, they won't have to fight tourists.
Right.
To park here. Now, there's only 20, 30, 40 spaces here, but it's better than nothing.
Right.
So you would make this on weekends besides the short time the library's open, restricted to downtown employees?
Anybody who's enrolled in this employee park program,
Would they pay anything or just,
$50 a month.
that'd be one of their places they could park?
Right. The place where they most likely find a spot.
Yeah,
Is that what they paid to park in the pool lot, the middle row?
This is different than the reserved stalls.
Okay.
Yeah, this employee parking is first come, first served program. You could pay $50 a month and you could not find a parking spot when you wanted. We're a busy town. But that's why I thought if we're gonna do this, we'll restrict City Hall to that program.
In city business,
On the weekends. It's city business only, Monday through Friday.
which is great. We've
from
had
8 a.m. to
issues with
6
people
p.m.
being late to meetings because they've been driving around and
You
trying.
guys have had problems finding parking coming to city council meetings. We know the PRSA board members have had problems. We know the parking advisory committee members all remote in because they can't find a parking space to come to a parking advisory committee.
Ironic, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I just wanted to call attention to this ad on page 43 of the rate and fee schedule. And just as a notation, to eliminate a little bit of confusion for a reader that doesn't know exactly what BA means, I would recommend maybe we put like B annex or something like that. Otherwise, people might think that it also includes the lot A and we just had a typo.
yep, understood. We will make that change.
Okay. Anything else quickly at the?
Yeah, I had a couple just stuff on really fast. So, in water and sewer, stormwater, and garbage, those are all updated to include, the new system development charges that were adopted by resolution, as well as the new rates that were adopted by resolution. There are miscellaneous charges that aren't included in the resolution you already adopted. So, the vast majority of those were updated with a 2.8% inflation factor, which was calculated based off those resolutions as well. In fact, I know we spelled out where to be calculating those. There's also an inflation factor that was added on to all of the cemetery charges. And then one last item to call out in the special use fee. Special use? So, special use permit fee. In the downtown, there is currently 2 different charges depending on if someone is using a sidewalk or a roadway area for a special use permit. Right now, if you're using sidewalk, it's half the cost of using the roadway. Since those are all functionally the same, I've changed those to be identical. So instead of 75 cents per square foot for sidewalk usage, it's now updated to $1.50 to match the roadway. And my understanding is that was before COVID, that those fees were set in place. The more expensive one was to account for paid parking that those spaces were taking up. But now, because it's not paid parking, I see those as the same use and therefore the fees were updated to reflect that. But it will be obviously a large increase for people who are used to paying the sidewalk fee for the rest of the fees. So
that's like the art, some of the art festivals that say, is that on Front Street? Is that what we're talking about? The people that would rent a 10x10 booth.
Yeah, it's more for the outdoor eating areas.
Oh, I
There's
see.
some that are technically on sidewalk.
I got you. Okay.
And yeah, they pay a different fee for that.
Yeah. So it's not the special event things that I'm thinking of. It's the
Yeah,
businesses in town. Okay.
it's a special use permit fee, is that right? Yeah, yeah.
That's specifically for Front Street, so like Blue and Brewing, if they wanted to do it out on the road again and take what is now paid parking. Does that apply to there as well?
It's the same cost regardless of what it is. Which is that $1.50, and I think that was originally calculated based off paid parking. Cost per stall is my understanding, but I wasn't here then, I'm not sure.
But wait, we're $4.50 now.
So Andy, I don't have my hearing aids tonight. Okay.
Oh, I'm
So-
sorry.
So I just need a little
Yeah,
clarification.
please.
I just turned mine out.
I should use yours. Hate to want to do that. So it's gonna go from 75 cents a square foot to $1.50
On the sidewalk.
on the sidewalk. So in the parking spot itself, it's always been what?
$1.50.
So it's been $1.50. So you're just matching price. Why are we doing that? Why are we doubling it?
Because I personally don't think it's equitable for someone to pay half the cost if they're just on something that's designated a sidewalk, but's used the same as the roadway in that location. So for example, down by Front Street restrooms, there's the wineries down there that have their outdoor seating areas. Yeah, I think those are, so those ones are paying the sidewalk cost, whereas someone who's in Front Street that's also close to vehicular traffic is paying $1.50 for their space. So this is just to make all of those the same.
all using right of way, so.
Oh.
All.
Right.
Okay. And that's like, so that calculates out for a season, right? Like that's,
I think I think it's a month, $5.50 per square foot per month.
per month. That's what you're gonna do. Okay.
And they have the choice to pay all upfront for the whole year, or however many
Or break
months
it
they're
down.
gonna be using it, or set up a payment plan to pay monthly. So there's options. It's not.
So someone like Colchuck, they've got both sidewalk and
They don't have.
parking, or do they just got the
sidewalk,
parking?
They just have street.
They just have the street stuff. Sidewalks up.
Yeah, Colchuck doesn't have one anymore. Stein only does. We eliminated the one on A Street that Colchuck had.
Okay.
Anything else before? We gotta take a brief break and then.
Ann's gotta get in.
Oh, and
Sorry. One last question. It's actually a two-parter. First, Andy, the water, sewer, and stormwater rates that the council has agreed upon now, are those the recent updates that were sent to us by Andrea after the fact? Are those in the latest version that we're seeing?
Yes, they are.
Okay. And when are you anticipating having a final draft for the city council and filling in kind of where there are still some remaining X's and highlights and those sorts of things?
I think there should just be one section, and I think that's under the water miscellaneous fee. Everything else should be covered in that. Is there something in particular you're looking at?
No, I was just curious kind of what sort of timeline we're on for the rate and fee schedule, because I assume you want this adopted at our December meeting?
Yes. Yeah. Yes. I think it should have everything, but I think the ones that I still had in there that were just, oh, you're right.
It's like the
I
2x6 fires. So
That's right. I have a meeting set up with our consultant. There's some weird things on the 2-inch by 6-inch fire service connection. It's a charge that's been in there as a monthly rate, but we've never charged it as a monthly rate. It's actually been charged as a system development charge, but it's a completely wrong system development charge. So I meet with our consultant one last time just to go over that and get clarity to set final values for those. And then they'll be included. And then the last item the only other thing that should be highlighted, I was just waiting for confirmation on some of the miscellaneous charges associated with water meters and water meter boxes that are being replaced with traffic rated boxes. I think that's the only other thing that was still highlighted. But I'll have those for the next council packet.
Yeah, the water meter bucks, various different items are still highlighted. Specific to that, why is it that the city requires the customer to do all of the excavation and exposing of kind of like a 2-foot radius and that sort of thing, when that is in the right of way?
That's actually a standard that we have for all of our water service connections. So that's the responsibility of the customer, which is they usually hire a contractor for, but to excavate all of those. Part of that is surface restoration. So if they've made improvements in those areas, it's their responsibility to account for that. If there's concrete that needs to be cut or those types of things, it's ultimately their risk for having placed that on top of the infrastructure. And that's kind of where that driver is coming from.
Is there a way that we can capture a cost but do it ourselves when we generally have the equipment necessary to do that work in the right of way? Is that a possibility rather than having a property owner guess what is necessary to meet the city's requirements in order to like swap out a box or, create some sort of adjustment or something like that?
Yeah, we could do it 2 ways. We could have the benefit of having it set up this way, the rate and fee, is that it's a clear cost we can give to the customer. What we can do is have a second option of the city completes that work, but then it's billed at our labor and equipment fee. And that way you give them an estimate. But say that someone has a concrete pad that's poured over the top, so it's going to be more expensive for us to go in and actually saw cut and excavate at that rate. Then we could just use those fees. So I could set it up that way where it's like an either or.
I think that would be helpful because sometimes it's just a really easy city swap. Like it's not going to be a higher cost in some examples, but it's so much easier for the city to do it and meet their needs for the parameters that they need for that type of ask and that type of swap versus the customer kind of guessing what the city needs. So it might be great to have that kind of flexibility built into the rate and fee schedule.
Yeah, we can do that.
All right. That's it. Let's take a real brief break. And we'll be back here in a couple of minutes.
I can't hear anything.
Now you can.
Yay,
Mike,
thank you.
get us started.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Right, roll call.
Sharon Waters.
Zeke Reister,
Shane Thayer?
Travis McMaster.
Mike Bedard.
And Hesburgh.
Okay, and I would entertain a motion to excuse Councilmember Strand from the meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, it's moved by Shane and seconded by Sharon. All those in favor, let me see your hand. Passes unanimously. I've got one item to add to the agenda before we approve the consent agenda. Action item 13, and you've got it in front of you that was passed out there. This was an oversight, but what happened was we have the action item 12 is a professional service agreement with our traffic control, and that's to give us a contract with that company. But then we need a second motion to pay all the other traffic control costs, which means Chelan County, Washington State, WASDOT. So you have a not to exceed number for the entire. So that's what's going to be added as next item number 13.
So this is paying for last year?
No, this is what we're setting for this year.
Okay, because it says 2024 Village of Light. It's just showing you a history?
Oh, yeah, that's.
Oh, the motion state 2025. Okay.
Should
Copy
have
that.
25.
The motion say 2025.
Okay.
Thank you for that,
All right.
catch, Shane. Yep.
All right. I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended.
So moved.
I actually have a couple of things I'd love some clarification on before we move forward, if that's okay with the council.
All right. What would
Before
you
we
like?
move all the way through motion.
Sure.
I have a question about item number 5 and 6. I'll start with our professional services agreement for our hearing examiner. We've had the same hearing examiner for a very long time, and I guess I would love some feedback from staff as to whether or not it's good to just kind of re-up the contract, or if it would be a good idea to maybe do a search for a hearing examiner and figure out who is the best fit after a long time, because we just have had the same hearing examiner for a long time. And it might be good to get some new blood. So I wouldn't mind if that is a conversation before we re-up for another 4 years.
Do you have reason besides we should get some new blood? Is there something that's come to your attention that you have concerns with?
Not necessarily, but I have a lot of, I'll say, decades of experience with the same hearing examiner, because it's also the hearing examiner for Chelan County. And I don't think there's a downside to getting some new blood, but I also don't want to disrupt a good relationship if that is established with the staff. I just think that it's good to also look at options after a while, because we've had the same hearing examiner for a considerable amount of time.
I know, I'm just trying to understand. I guess I've been to a couple of hearing examiner hearings. What's an example of what is the detriment of continuing this relationship? I'm just trying to understand it, I'm just trying to understand maybe something to be gained or something that's more advantageous to the community by switching, or what is, I'm just curious if there's something more to this. And
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be, I'm just trying to figure it out.
I think there's an opportunity for better representation and somebody who's not kind of in the same pattern for a couple of decades. I think that there's an advantage to that for creating an equal opportunity at a hearing examiner experience at a public meeting, and expecting an equal opportunity outcome as well. I'm not saying that that's necessarily what people aren't getting currently, but I feel like it's always a good opportunity to kind of have that conversation when it's time to have a discussion about re-upping a contract after it's been established for a significant period of time.
Is there some language that we can do as a council that says every 5 years we are required to change? I mean, that's fine too, right? Can we do that?
So typically typically when you do professional services and that, you don't have them ongoing forever. You do go out and search for them and put out a request for, those. So that's what I would say would be typical. What I don't know, Ann, is what I do know is that he's doing everybody in North Central Washington just about. So I don't know what the opportunities are, but we could pull this and
He is for the most part, but not every jurisdiction. And Okanagan County switched up their hearing examiner from him a few years ago, for a period of time. And I feel like it might be good to just kind of see what our options are rather than continually upping a contract for multiple years over and over again. I feel like our community would benefit from that, and potentially our staff, because he has gotten into a bit of a pattern with kind of using old decisions, rather than creating new ones every time.
Using old decision.
well, I mean, if
As a
you'd like-
template, I will say.
let's pull it for now. Let's look into what that process might look like, get more feedback from staff and bring back a recommendation to either go out or keep going with this. But for now, let's just pull this out.
Just
Okay?
feedback.
So, and then you got another question on 6, it sounds
Yeah, I
like.
just wanted some clarification really quickly
Real
on the
quick,
ways.
Ann,
Hang on a second.
Oh, sorry.
You did ask the staff directly to give feedback and
Yep.
nobody gave them a chance to talk, so.
No, absolutely. I would love that if possible.
Well,
I mean, I don't have much to say. I have a good working relationship with the hearing examiner, but I'm not opposed to looking elsewhere if needed. If that's the way we handle
Has the opinion
contracts,
been
and
fair?
that's a
Fair?
process for sure. We haven't had a ton of hearings lately, so.
Maggie, do we have anything in the pipeline that you're aware of that would require the services of the hearing examiner in the first quarter of 26?
Unless we get.
so we can go ahead, pull it, look at, see what's out there and bring something back one way or another. But, and then what about waste management though?
Oh, I was just looking for some clarity on the contract amendment ask. I wasn't clear. Is that changing everybody's waste management cost agreement within the city, or is this? I wasn't completely clear on
Yeah,
it.
that's, in the 10-year contract that we have with waste management, there's an automatic 3.25% increase COLA. This is a special increase to the B&O fee. And it was asked I got a letter from Waste Manager back in August and telling us that there was a new House Bill 2081 to increase the B&O tax rate from 1.75% to 2.1%. And then there was an additional increase effective January 1. I ran this by our city attorney, and he said that because this was a contract that was approved by council, and this changes the rate, Exhibit A, the rates, that he wanted council to approve this amendment.
So this is a rate increase based on
State law,
state law changes
yes,
only.
only.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay, so we have an amended consent agenda, adding action 13 and removing the professional services agreement with our hearing examiner. I would entertain a motion to approve with those changes.
I move to approve as amended.
Second.
Moved by Mike, seconded by Shane. All those in favor, let me see your hands. And it passes unanimously. Okay. Before we move into our other items, just remind everybody that when we're here, we're respectful of each other. We acknowledge that it is okay to disagree. Prior to making comments, you must be recognized by the chair. Address the council as a whole and not individuals. Keep your comments focused on the topic being discussed if it is an item of discussion and not just public comments from the public on items not on the agenda. And with that, we will move on to anybody that has comments on items that aren't on our agenda. Ron? I see you standing up. I assume you're gonna come and make a comment.
Ron Duncan, 224 Cascade Street, infamous Cascade Street.
Infamous.
Just I wanted to make the council aware that there's a sign obstructing the roadway onto 8th off of Commercial. So into that half block off of Commercial that is paid parking and access to the alleys, which have parking lots in them. Motorized vehicles are constantly going through there, and there's a sign obstructing the entry onto 8th Street that says non-motorized vehicle only. Not only does that convince everybody that the non-motorized vehicles only half a block up don't mean anything because they don't mean anything here, but cars have to go around it into the other lane to go in. So there's only a single lane wide entering and exiting. There's trucks unloading, it's congested, and the city places a sign blocking that access saying non-motorized vehicles only. It is it's a safety hazard. You got pedestrians, it's bad. I spoke to Public Works several weeks ago. No action, no response. I request that the council direct Public Works to address this public safety issue because it's not going anywhere. It just sits there. I've seen some people move the sign out of the way because it's crazy and somebody puts it back. So it's a public safety issue and it's easy and the city's creating it with an incorrect city sign. On another issue, I can have two, can't I?
Make it fast.
Okay. My concern is that there's in some departments of the city, there seems to be a hostility to citizens and a sense that the government is an entity and the citizens are the other people that we have to protect ourselves from, rather than the city government existing to represent and serve the citizens. Indication of this, returning to our public or our the meeting last week, the working session where Public Works Director spoke about Cascade Street and the incident on Cascade Street. And I'd like to provide some more context to that because it's resulting in a fee change on the schedule, which demonstrates this issue. So on Cascade Street, as mentioned before in the meeting last working session, my side of the story, I was trying to help a neighbor because her meter box was 6 inches below the sidewalk, creating a hole in that whole area that all the rain, all the surface water and all the snow melt goes down the meter box, which is not what you want in any time of the winter. And so before making any changes to the meter box to address this hole issue, I called the city because the meter box is the demarcation between the public water system and the private property owner. And so it's a partnership that we have to have. We have to work together on this thing and not have a hostile relationship. So I called the city. The city Public Works reception doesn't, she never calls back. I emailed the public works director, no response in this instance. And so I called the mayor. And the mayor had Rick from Public Works out a couple hours later, and we had a discussion like things have always been in Leavenworth, because we're a town that we can talk to each other, we can work things out. And we're looking at the meter box, and he's looking at what it is, and he agrees it's not right. And in the past, he said, you know, they normally would have provided a riser to bring it up to the sidewalk rate. But they're not, he said he wasn't allowed to do that anymore. And but so then we looked at what I was proposing, and he didn't have any problem with it from the city side, which the city should care. The city should come out and look at it. And so I asked for, well, what riser do I use to make sure I don't screw up the box? I don't know. And so about a week later, I got enough information I could work with it. And by the way, if you need one, Ag Supply in East Wenatchee, $22. They're in stock, or they normally stock them, which is about a third of what the city's supplier charges normal people. So anyway, so I am we repaired the level of the lid, and the reason that the whole thing was a big part of it was the whole box. It's a stack of risers. At some point in the past, the city replaced whatever was there for the meters and put in these stack of plastic risers. And they, this whole stack was like this. And so the shutoff was over here. So when you tried to put the wrench down there to shut off the water, you couldn't get to it straight. You were coming in at an angle, but the whole box was crooked. Now, in the old days, the city would have said, well, that box screwed up. The city likely installed it, and there would have been some involvement, but I wasn't asking for that. I was asking to work with the city. I dug the whole box out, I straightened it all out, I fixed it all. I put the riser on that I got from Ag Supply for $22. And as a result of that, well, item 19, it should have my name on it, but the water meter center adjustment fee. And she goes into great detail. We're going to make it really complicated and a lot of engineering. And this is something that we were just talking between the city and a homeowner that's trying to fix something that's clearly wrong. And the fee now is $300 on this for that interface with the city. The real cultural concern is that during that session 2 weeks ago, the public works director repeated something that she told me. That she said, the way I look at it is when we're providing a service that's requested by a customer for the benefit of the customer, I don't think it's equitable for us to put that fee on all the other ratepayers. In addition, the director has explained that anything that benefited an individual citizen was considered a gift of city resources, and that was unethical. Ratepayers, the properties on Cascade Street have been occupied for over 100 years. There have been houses on there for more than 100 years. And the people have been paying for water for 100 years. And so when somebody has an issue with the meter box that the city installed at some point, for the city public works director to punish people for having the gall to ask for the city to take a look at this with me it's a cultural issue that I think we need to address. And my mouth is really dry now.
Well, I think you need to wrap it up anyway, Ron.
I will. Okay, I just want to say that the idea that a citizen cannot benefit from a public resource in any way without individually charging them is a corruption of the meaning of public. In every interaction between an individual citizen and city government, that individual is somehow benefiting from public resources. The very existence of the city government is a benefit. I ask the city council to consider as a starting point that public resources should be made available to the maximum extent possible to the citizens that pay for them through taxes and utility rates with a smile. We should be working together as a city of citizens, not government against citizens, monetizing every interaction. Thank you.
Thanks, Ron. Okay, anything else? Items If not, we'll move on to our public safety reports. I know Corporal Lake is not going to be here tonight, but I think we've got, yes, Mike Smith from the fire district. Mike?
Hello. So for us, obviously winter's here. We knew there was snow forecasted this week, but yeah, we responded to 4 vehicle incidents so far today. 3 up Blewett and 1 up Tumwater. I know Lake Wenatchee's responded to at least a couple up Stevens Pass. So if you haven't put your snow tires on, I'd make that appointment as soon as possible. But just drive safe. It's been a rough day. So please be careful getting home. You may have seen some of the prescribed fire projects going on. There was the Blewett Pass project where they were burning a lot of piles from a previous fuels project. The latest thing, they were working up Walker Canyon off of Eagle Creek, but I'm assuming now with the snow, they're probably not going to be starting any new prescribed fire projects. Our training is continued in structural operations for our volunteers. Our West Zone Fire Academy, and that's our district, District 3, District 6, which is Peshastin to Monitor, and then 9 is Lake Wenatchee. They're almost done, and we have 5 recruits in the class that will go onto the roster, some of which have been with us as long as March, and they've been pretty much restricted to observing and helping with EMS. So far, we've responded to 671 calls, slightly down from 716 at the same point last year. And again, that's we kind of have an annual lull right about now until this first coming weekend of the Village of Lights. And then once those begin, we usually experience an enhanced call volume through the end of the year. So does anybody have any questions?
Questions for Mike?
Thanks, Chief.
All right.
Thanks, Mike.
Yeah. All right. Our next is presentation from Superintendent Tracy. Has got an update for us. Try to keep it to about 10 minutes if you can,
I'll try.
please.
Okay, I'm gonna try to 7:32. I will really try hard to keep this
Yeah.
fast. So good evening. My name is Tracy Dew, Superintendent of Cascade School District. This is my 7th year as superintendent here.
Been that long. Wow.
It is, I know. Happy first day of winter, unofficially. I like to come once a year just to give you a little bit of update about the school district and see if I can answer any questions. I'm gonna try to go through quickly. What I normally do is talk about some of the highlights from the previous school year and some of the things that we're looking forward to this school year. So I'm just gonna kind of zoom through some of the highlights from last school year so I can go quickly, as Carl suggested. But this will look a little bit like last year. Just like last year I talked about the year before. So last year was a really great year for kids. We had a lot of great things going on. I'm just popping through, but one thing I would like to highlight is our propane fuel tank. You may hear about the initiative across the state of Washington for electric school buses for our climate and the duration of our bus routes. Propane is a better solution for us. It is low emissions, very quiet, and just a great opportunity. It doesn't gel up when it gets cold. So we have a propane bus, we have a propane fuel station, and we're hoping to add to it in the future. Just like Eastmont has propane buses, and I think propane is kind of a low emissions option that Eastern Washington finds more attractive in general than electric. This is a low water demonstration garden at the middle school that we put in place in partnership with the Chelan County Department of Natural Resources. Trying to go really fast. So you can see some of the pictures here. We are proud of our athletic program. Our athletic program has been getting better every year. Last year we had some successes in fall sports, successes in winter sports. One that I want to highlight is girls basketball. Really did a great job last year. We're very excited about the season this year and hope that you'll all come out and support our girls basketball team. We also have a really strong cross country team. Of course, we're known for soccer. This year, our football team did better than ever. So just make sure to come out and support our student athletes. Also, our cheerleading team has turned from being a club to a sport. And we actually are going to have some male cheerleaders during basketball this year. So it's going to be fun to see. So come out and support your Kodiaks. They really, really appreciate it. Last year, our Beaver Valley students were selected to present an Olympia at an environmental literacy summit. So they presented on their trail cam project. If you all have seen the pictures that they take of the wildlife and then they learn a lot about it. So they got to talk all about it to people in Olympia last January. I would like to thank the community for supporting our levies last year, both the Educational Program and Operations Levy and the Capital Levy, which is for facilities, safety, and technology. These make huge differences to our schools, and we are very appreciative to our communities for the support. I'm sure everybody has heard about the choir program and the Crescendo Choir campaign. That's been so successful. Our middle school choir was even selected to present at a statewide conference last year, and they did a really great job. Their choir director has a lot of experience in Africa, and he has a very international slant to music that's fun to listen to. Last year, both Alpine Lakes and the middle school were selected as U.S. News and World Report Best Elementary and Best Middle Schools. And breaking news, they were just selected again for 2026. I talked about fall sports and winter sports a little. We also had success in spring sports. Here's an example where our girls golf team did really, really well. And in fact, Ryan Johnson was third in district. For those of you who like to support the Leavenworth Jazz Festival, that's really fun and a great example of community and school partnership. See how fast I'm going, Carl? I can talk about every single one of these.
Oh, no.
Again, in our sports, we had students make lots of records last year, which was very exciting. Ezra Week, Lola Riki, and then we had a team of the 4x100 meter relay, broke school records. So that was very exciting last year as well. Glow Concert, we have an elementary arts program in part due to a partnership with the Icicle Creek Center for the Arts and Village Art in the Park. They partnered with our elementary music program to put on just this amazing art and music extravaganza that you should be seeing again this year. This is something not to miss. It's really incredible. And that was at Alpine Lakes Elementary School. Last year, Cascade School District was the only school district in the state of Washington to be recognized as a Green Ribbon School District, which celebrates health and wellness, environmental education, and waste management. I'm sure all of you know here that we compost and have mixed recycling in K-12. We're very proud of that, as I've talked at a previous city council meeting that we used to be the #1 bear attractor in the city of Leavenworth, and now we're not. So you're welcome, hotels.
They can learn from you.
Yeah.
That's our take on it. I hope you're enjoying the pictures of that just rolling through quickly. For state test scores, Cascade School District tends to do well on these, and we exceed state averages both English and math in almost every grade level and in both subject areas. So we're proud of that. Okay, this summer we did a few things that I just wanted to highlight. One is the technology inventory. As you know, we passed a technology levy and we need to really think about refreshing and improving technology system-wide. So one thing we wanted to do is get a good solid baseline of what do we have in the district, where is it? You would think that's easy to do, but with, 1,150 students, 200 employees, things move. So we did a full technology inventory this summer. Our Technology Student Association competed at nationals again. We usually have a team that competes every year. We also had an 8th grade camp to Washington, D.C. They learned a lot about history and government. This year, there are a couple of things. One thing I'll just highlight that you may all have heard about is our phone-free school policy. Wenatchee has gotten more attention in the news, but we are doing it too. Our phone-free school policy, we did a lot of research and studied a lot of different school districts, and we actually are not using the magnetic pouches that Wenatchee is using based upon our research. The number one deterrent for using phones in schools is what we affectionately call reflection time, which y'all might think of as detention. But so we just have to really make sure that there are consequences for using phones. The kids don't fully love it, but what I can tell you is it's incredible to see students walking through the hallways and just talking to each other. And it's incredible to see kids having a conversation over a meal. And teachers are reporting that students are more able to pay attention in class to what's going on. I think we as adults understand how many alerts we receive constantly, and that's very distracting to students in the classroom. This year, we are also starting a certified nursing assistant program for the first time in partnership with Mountain Meadows, and that's very exciting. We have a new partnership with communities and schools as well. That's an organization that is actually nationwide, and they provide kind of wraparound family services for students in need. They are currently helping us at Alpine Lakes and the Venice. We also now have a program called Washington 45 in our high school, in which students can obtain all of the credits that they need to obtain to start college exactly as a sophomore in a Washington University. We have way more credits than that you can get, but this is having the right credits in the right areas to complete the Washington 45, and we have that for the first time. I think it's important that everyone understands that we have a true commitment to belonging in Cascade. Every student belongs in our school district, every student who walks in the door, and we truly care about each and every student as individuals. So I like to say that we as a team have talents and abilities that positively impact students, families, and our communities now and for the future. And if you think about this city council and the community as a whole, I believe the same. As we, as an entire community, and we as officials in the community, as we work together for the betterment of students, we not only impact the individual students at whatever age they may be now, but we also positively impact the future of them as individuals, but also as our communities. I truly believe that. And I am grateful to the city for the partnership that we have had and the problem solving that we do together on a regular basis. I think it really matters and the kids see it. And I think we need to be good role models for them because they watch what we do. I liked how you, Carl, were talking about the way we need to talk to each other. I think that discourse matters, and what we teach students about how we talk to each other matters. And so I think that we need to be really conscious as a community of how are we teaching children to talk to each other and to interact as co-citizens, like you were just saying. So I said, have a great school year. Obviously, it's now winter, but we have a lot more great things coming on in Cascade School District this year. I do want to do a little rumor control. since I wrote this presentation, there's been a little bit of attention about lead. So I just did want to say that there is a new state law that requires lead testing in schools that had their plumbing done after 2016. So we complied with that testing requirement. We actually thought that the middle school would be completely fine as it was built in around 1993. But surprisingly, we actually needed to shut off 4 sinks and label 5 others as hand washing only for now. And we're working on a remediation schedule. At the district office, we also had to shut off a water faucet, but I don't think that surprises anyone. Building, but we've been drinking bottled water there for a long time. Anyhow, we're working on a remediation plan, which is open to public comment right now for the next week or so. So if you look on our website under maintenance and facilities, you can have an opportunity to see the remediation plan and provide your suggestions and feedback if you'd like. But we are not anticipating needing to request additional taxpayer funds for this. We have applied to a grant from the state of Washington in order to do the remediation. But if you consider the fact that this community has supported building new schools and renovating new schools, our situation with lead is a lot better than it could have been. So thank you to the communities for that as well. All right, I think I was super fast.
Right?
Compared to the past. Do you have any questions for me?
Yeah, Tracy, I was gonna ask you, how does it work with the phones? Like, what do the kids come with their phone, they stash it, or how does it
You
work?
put it in their backpack. Great question. We decided to have students just keep their phones off and in their backpack. And the reason we did is because the number one concern that people had was, what if there's an emergency?
Right.
And I actually talked to a superintendent who unfortunately experienced a school shooting in their school district. And they said it was very important for the students to have access to their phones. We don't want them to have constant alerts to distract them all the time, but we do like the idea of having their phones in their backpack if they need to, if there's an emergency situation. I would also like to clarify, like if there's a student who has diabetes, has an app to monitor their blood sugar, a student in that situation can have their phone. That's an exception to the rule. But most of the students keep their phones in their backpacks. That is not new for Alpine Lakes or for the middle school. That's what was going on anyway. It is new for the high school. But the way we do it is bell to bell, wall to wall. So our upperclassmen who have off-campus lunch could potentially use their phones at lunchtime. So the biggest impact is really to our sophomores who had access to their phones as freshmen during breaks and who don't as sophomores. But the kids are being really good. That doesn't mean they love it, but they are being very respectful of the phone.
Right.
The last time you spoke to us, you were heard in your voice, you had some stressors that were coming up with them with your insurance premium was just and some of that. And any follow up to that? I mean,
Yeah.
you were losing some teacher. It was like a really stressful time, I think.
Yeah, actually, that's a great question. And so are you talking about the overall financial or about insurance in particular?
Well, that one was a big one, right? That was really
Yeah,
nailed you guys. That was, yeah.
Yeah, insurance, that's an interesting question because it actually, Anne made me remember that when she was just talking about doing due diligence, because we did full due diligence on our insurance provider last school year to make sure that we were getting the most competitive rate. And after doing all the due diligence, we were. So we had to do a full analysis and really study and take a look at our options. And it turned out that our insurance provider was the right insurance provider, but they had to learn from, I think everybody can do things better. And what our insurance provider had done that caused negative ripples across the region was that they had raised their rates after budgets were adopted.
That was it. Yeah.
And so they have had to change their practices to be clearer earlier. And so now they set us a do not exceed amount that we can use for our budgetary planning, and they will not do that to us anymore. So that was the big change we needed from them. But other than that, they actually do a great job working with us. As y'all know, we're very unique. We have ski and snowboard clubs, some of those pictures you've seen. Not every insurance company understands some of the unique opportunities that our students have that you wouldn't have like in Seattle or something. So we need an insurance provider who can understand a rural mountainous school district, and our insurance company ended up being the right people for the job as long as they could change that practice. That's a great question. And on the financial side, our financial situation is improving. We came up with a 3-year plan and we are ahead of schedule.
Because the per student, because the dollar per student from some of the other funding, because you were losing some students, you were losing a lot of that.
Yes, so the declining enrollment has been an issue for us, especially since COVID, which is why I am a supporter of affordable housing and workforce housing, as I think all of you know, because I think we have great opportunities here as long as people can live here. And it's a great place for kids to grow up. But declining enrollment has been a difficult thing for us to navigate. And so we've had to really take a look at how we handle declining enrollment in our budget. But our outlook is looking better. And like I said, we're ahead of schedule.
Good, that's great. Yeah. Right.
Anybody else?
Thank you,
All right,
Casey.
Thanks, Casey.
All right, we will go on now to our action items. Action item 9, resolution 2025, then grant agreement. Maggie.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. The resolution before you tonight is just kind of a follow-up to the meeting we had in September where you granted the funds for the project, the MEN project, the duplex they're building currently. Those dollars will go toward funding the water sewer connections, easement they had to obtain to get sewer from the alley, and those system development charges. These will be deed restricted or through, I don't know if I'm saying that right, not deed restricted, but they'll be operated through MEN, and they will be permanently affordable as workforce housing, which is super exciting. So in your packet is a copy of the resolution, copy of the grant agreement, a copy of the declaration of covenants that will be recorded, as well as the deed of trust to be recorded. These have all gone through legal already. And so tonight, this resolution would just allow the mayor to sign the documents as necessary and formally approve the funding.
Entertain a motion.
The Leavenworth City Council moves to approve resolution 29-2025, granting $58,569 of affordable housing funds to Upper Valley Men, and authorizes the mayor to sign all documents associated with the grant.
Second.
Okay, just a clarification, I think it was 28. not
Yeah, it got
29.
changed in one spot and not the other.
Okay.
The number got changed. Sorry about that.
Resolution 28.
Yep. So moved by Zeke, seconded by Mike. Any other questions or discussion?
Oh, I see.
All right, all those in favor, let me see your hands. Passes unanimously. Next action item is legislative priorities. This is something that was brought to you in a study session while I was gone. And I heard that there weren't any comments, questions, corrections, additions, whatever. I will say that since bringing this forward, and these remain our main priorities, we did get something from our insurance authority, Washington City's insurance, that's about some reforms in liability they're going to be advocating at the state level, and that we would definitely support. There's currently practice has been that if the city's found to be only 10% liable, for instance, because of city, a public agency have deep pockets, they can go after the whole amount from the city. They're trying to say we shouldn't be they shouldn't be able to collect more than what our proportion of fault is, right? So that's one of the things. There's a couple of other, they would, current law permits them to present a gross amount of medical charges, billed at the time if there's an accident. And it can be quite a bit higher than what actually is paid out. And so this would again limit the payout to be what's the actual amount, not what was submitted as an amount. That can be, and they've shown 3 to 10 times higher when you don't give the actual amount. So those are a couple of reforms that we would support, as well as a normal list of legislative priorities. So with that, I would entertain a motion.
Anne has her hand up.
Anne? Yes.
Hi.
Ah.
Sorry, I was having
Yeah.
trouble coming off mute.
Okay.
Apologies for not being available for our discussion on our October 14th meeting when we reviewed this as a council. It was also when the mayor was out of town.
Oh, and you were out, yes. Okay.
Yes, we were both out of town and we were not party to this conversation with the council. But I will say that something that stood out to me and something that I would like to raise with the council for discussion is under the number one item, funding for housing. I will preface my comments with, I am absolutely supportive of finding solutions for our housing issues within our community. But my comment is specific to the first bullet point. I do not believe that lodging taxes should be used for solving our housing problems. I think that it is a much larger problem and it should not be we should not be looking at existing non-associated funding sources for solving that problem.
Any other questions, comments? And again, I would argue that it's one of our primary funding streams that we currently have. And I agree wholeheartedly that I would rather have something else. But I would also say that it's a critical enough need that if this is the only funding source we have to use for housing, I think it is critical enough that we should.
But doesn't that open us up to legal action?
No.
Any legal action?
We
Absolutely.
got the attorney general's opinion that we can do it.
But
So
that doesn't mean that we won't be litigated. And I know we will absolutely be litigated if we start using our lodging taxing for housing.
I don't think you can say that because you're not the litigator unless you plan to do it yourself. But because the Hospitality Association has been the one that has said that they do not want this happening. Quite frankly, though, once you have the state's attorney saying that you can do it, I think it would be pretty. It wouldn't do them any good to come out against a community that's trying to use something that the state's attorney says, yes, you can do it. I think it would give them a black eye, quite frankly, to take on a small town that's trying to solve a huge problem. So that's my.
It's not a great solution when other states already have better solutions that we can just copy. So since we're talking about legislative priorities, I feel like it's really important to be focused on what those legislative priorities are. And we're not reinventing the wheel here. Other states manage this very well that Washington State currently does not manage. And so I feel like we need to be very focused on what our legislative priorities are. And robbing from one fund to fund something else, I don't think is a great use of our resources and our time versus recreating a solution that works well in other states.
Yeah, some of the things that work well in other states is because other states allow you to do things like, raise, charge property taxes at a different level for second homes, for whatever. We are not allowed to do that. It's interesting. I mean, you say robbing something. The idea is the state legislature allowed for this to be used for, so it's not robbing, it's using what the state gave as a tool in 2015 by saying, okay, you have the option locally to use those dollars. And Leavenworth, quite frankly, is unique in that, I mean, we raise far more with our hotel motel tax than other cities by far, multiple times. And so to say, being able to use some of that, it's not asking for all of it, use some of that to address another critical need that is driven by our being a popular place for tourism. That's what creates our need for housing. So, the fact that you're saying robbing is, to me, is mislabeling, because the state said, yeah, if it's within, a half a mile of transit and, it's serving a purpose for housing, that's an appropriate use of these funds as well. So I just, would disagree that it's robbing dollars.
I'd like to kind of clarify the point that first off, our income is somewhere close to $4 million on lodging tax. Is that right? And this particular strategy, isn't this the one we're thinking of doing a bond and paying it back?
Well, we would pay we pay the bond off using some of the lodging tax. That's right. The idea. So okay. it would use a portion of it to pay the bond. Quite frankly, and again, that's the existing. I mean, I would love to have an additional fee so that you don't touch it, that it is just an affordable housing fee that's added in as an affordable housing, and that doesn't make us bond, and it also goes up higher. The other thing that, that I said with the current lodging tax is that it's limited to 80%. It doesn't get us to the 120. It doesn't get us high enough to fill that gap of what our housing need is. So I'm not stopping to, I'm not saying that this is the best plan to do. I'm saying if it's the only one, I mean, we can I've been working for 5 years to get another source. We've gotten really close a couple of times, but how long do we just sit there and say, okay, we're not going to get any if we got a source that we could get some? It wouldn't answer it. It wouldn't, there's no silver bullet in this thing. It's going to take multiple ways and ideas and coming through with, solutions. And I would continue to work on, and we've got a coalition of tourist economies that are working at this to come together and find those solutions too. But I disagree that there's easier solutions out there or better solutions out there that other states have done, because if they're ones that we can't get or we need the state to give us. And so far, the state hasn't been willing. So this is one that is available. The others are hopeful. But that's, and that's legislative priority is asking for new funds. What we're discussing right now is one that's already been given to us. But my goal is to go after a different source that is more flexible, that does allow us to get, higher incomes. We're not, tonight's legislative priorities isn't asking for us to get what we've already got. It's asking for a new source that would be more flexible. And again, add to what we've already got, not, yeah, it would be an addition that would be more flexible and allow for us to get 120% AMI. I mean,
So what
everybody,
we're doing here, we're changing it from the 80 up to the 120. Is that the critical change?
that would be a critical change, would allow us to to fill in a bigger piece of that
Right.
gap that's not being created in the market. I mean, that's the
Right.
reality.
Well, I would just say, I know other folks want to jump in here, but I feel like the housing is a critical, it isn't something we can just keep waiting on. We don't know how much, I would say, we're hemorrhaging or have internal bleeding with our housing and what we're losing in this community because we don't have a funding source to build affordable houses. So if there's an option here, doesn't mean we'll take it, but if the option allows us, it should be, I certainly think it should be part of the agenda or on the legislative session, without a question. I don't think we realize how critical and what we're losing by not having a housing program and not having a funding source. I don't think we're really aware of it because we've all got houses. And there's folks here who don't and who aren't coming here, families that are leaving here, and we don't see it because we don't, but it's happening. And I just don't think we can continue to wait and hope for some other sources and some other strategies. I think this is a chance to step up and we're just making it a priority. That's all we're doing. So
Tracy mentioned, the schools are going down and that's going to continue, that's going to continue. You talked to Diane at the hospital and that's that's one of the number one things for them is housing for nurses and their staff and everything else. It's not just the hospitality that isn't being able to be supplied with housing here. It's the entire guts of a community that we're losing year by year, more and more we're losing. So you're going to stop the hemorrhaging or are you just going to keep, giving lip service?
Yeah, I also agree. I like the idea of doing something, and I agree with Ann that it's not perfect. I don't necessarily, and I'm trying to figure out, sitting over here, trying to figure out how to articulate what I'm feeling, but I do think that the first part of that bullet point is, adding that additional small portion of tax to the existing lodging tax. And I think that to me is most palatable of this, and it makes the most sense. Then when it goes on to, in lieu of this, to at least expand, I think that's where some people will have a harder time swallowing that, if they're on the fence about it. So focusing on that additional tax that we can obviously leave everybody else intact and generate something that's specific for what we're trying to do that is directed clearly for that purpose. I like that more.
Yeah. Well, and I do too, 100%. I mean, and that's what, I've communicated with everyone and our legislators have already heard that from me. That's by far my preference. We don't get it. What do? We just watch our town go away then, or do we use the tool that we have? Quite frankly, I think if you use the tool you have, it might help you get that second tool because people will say, we'd rather you not use that. Well, then let us have a second tool. Work to help us get a second tool.
What is the lodging tax? Refresh me on what lodging tax can be spent on?
It's tourism related activities or facilities, or we use it for our downtown is they consider that a tourist facility, our downtown. So we spend it on all of that. We fund the LAT program, we fund the chamber with it.
So you're looking to cut for this funding for housing, you want to take a little bit out of the lodging tax and then maybe take a little bit out of the chamber, cut that back a little bit. It sounds like
right now we're not spending all of our lodging.
Okay.
what we'd like to spend it on, the difference is downtown improvements, right? We're got a big project that's gonna be, and it's gonna take multiple funding streams and sources, and some of that, would love to leave that, lodging tax for there. But you've got competing needs, right? I mean, it's trying to do that balancing act between what the community needs to stay a community and what the downtown needs to, keep it going. So it's balancing. It's like any budget. You balance what your needs and.
So I think, and also Chelan County just pulled out of all of their advertising, so they've dialed back. The state tourism budget for Oregon is, I think was it 15?
Washington?
For Oregon, it's like 15 or $30 million to bring tourists into Oregon. Washington just cut theirs back to $1.5 million that the whole state spends. So we use lodging tax to bring tourists to our town, right? Chelan County is pulled out of all of the other markets. They're not advertising for Chelan, Lake Chelan, Manson, anything in Chelan County. They pulled out, so that's gone away. And then you're going to take some more monies. And I don't want to sound like this. We need more tourists. I'm not saying we need more tourists, right? That's the balancing act. Like you said, we're a tourist town at the end of the day, right? But we focus so much on, and we're balancing whether this is a legal thing or not, as Ann said, and we have a kind of a yellow light from the AG, and that's right. And this is what we've been wanting. We've all been wanting this, and now that it's kind of here, it's kind of at our feet. It comes around every once in a while. We talk about 40% of our inventory is our second home. I mean, like, I'm not saying that I have any solution to that, but focusing on this and taking money here and trying to do this, and I think that there's other things. We've done this in the past couple of years, like more tools, adding tools, and we've tapped out on all of our tools. We've done a great job. All of us in this city and all of you guys. I don't know that this is quite there yet for me.
That's also bullet number 3 addresses that last point you made. So it's not.
And
Bullet 1 is the sticky. Yeah. I'm fine with everything else. Yeah.
And.
Oh, thank you.
Yep.
Yes, sorry, I was waiting my turn. A couple of comments based on what the council has been discussing. First, I wanted to acknowledge what Zeke said. Zeke, in general, I totally agree with you. I think that housing is very important in our community, and finding housing diversity options and housing solutions is imperative for our community. That said, I think we really need to focus on how we're going to make that happen, and lodging tax and what lodging tax is designed for is not housing. Housing is for tourism. Housing is for tourism infrastructure. Housing is for tourism projects, those sorts of things. In the grand scheme of things, particularly with our downtown revitalization associated with our downtown steering committee, we have more projects downtown than we can possibly fund currently. And I think we need to keep that in mind and within our vision as we're having this conversation. And we don't need to reinvent the wheel when it comes to creating opportunities for housing at the state level. This isn't a new concept. Many other states have already paved the way for us with regard to solutions for housing, particularly with second homes and those sorts of things, and the ways that we can create an additional tax basis for localized housing opportunities for those sorts of experiences. Travis, I think you're spot on asking the questions that you are. It's very important to know and understand exactly what lodging tax was established for and how it can be used. And regardless of how the AG feels about this, it doesn't mean that we won't be sued if we start using lodging tax for housing. We absolutely will be sued. And I know, Coral, you questioned whether or not I know that. I know that we will be sued if we start using lodging tax for housing, because that's not what lodging tax was designed for, regardless of how the AG feels about it. Because I already have heard from various different agencies that they will sue us if we start using it that way. That's not what it was designed for. There are great solutions. We just need to get our legislation in line with how to appropriately allocate funding for housing. And that might be a constitutional amendment, but that might be needed. And that is exactly what legislative priorities are for, to leverage those conversations so that we can find those solutions at a state level that will work very well for our community.
And those have been fought for years, and they'll take years more, and that's fine if that's the route you want to go. When you say that's not what it's for, the legislature in 2015 did pass legislation, and look at what the Attorney General, it's not just giving his opinion, it's giving a legal opinion that was expanded to include housing. And so, you know, look at his opinion. He even answers those critics who say it doesn't apply to you. It only applied to King County, because that's what the Hospitality Association was trying to say. And he even addresses that in that opinion. So it's not simply an opinion, it's the state's legal opinion. So it was expanded to include it. And the reason is because it's recognized that one of the byproducts of having a strong tourism economy is this need for housing. And it's recognized that those two are tied together. So it's not either or, and it's not, you know, it's not robbing from, it's balancing, like I said. The need for housing is strong, as well as the need to keep the economy strong. Both are needed. And until we get another funding stream, all of the other things you do, and Zeke, you've said this before, we make smaller lots and we do smaller sizes of things and we do that. But without a funding stream, all that does is give more opportunities for second home buyers to be able to have a more affordable second home. So unless we can capture it with some funding, and you make it sound so easy to do, but you know, I haven't seen the product come across, and the legislature has not been willing to give us those tools. But I mean, as long as I'm here, I'll keep fighting for them, but it's a long and hard battle. And how many do we say goodbye to in the meantime? So
I guess I'd like to say that, Shane, what's your take? You haven't said much.
No, I haven't. I'm just sitting back listening. I do want to touch on Ann's point on future projects that we have in the pipe, you know, that have been allocated with lodging tax funds, and what that will look like if we decide to take money from lodging tax and, you know, put it towards affordable housing. Does that push out these projects even further? Does it, you know, what does that look like budget wise?
you wouldn't,
You're saying they're gonna get delayed if we use this? Is
yeah,
that what you're saying?
no. And
No,
you know
that's-
what, it's doing the downtown is gonna be a multi-source.
Oh, yeah,
thing,
we
too.
can't pay for
You know,
it.
we're not gonna pay for it just with lodging tax. It's gonna be
Right.
multiple things that are gonna be, hopefully we go after some grants, hopefully we got lodging tax and probably a LID, you know, on the businesses down there. So it's gonna be multiple sources. What we're talking about to take from lodging tax is not a huge amount. If you're bonding, you're gonna be 50 to 75,000 a year out of that $4 million, you know, to pay on a bond. That's not,
Yeah,
it's not going to make or break anything going forward in terms of what we have to do. But it would give us some housing, you know, the potential for some.
Is the debate here, we're not gonna resolve this
Right.
tonight, and so is the question whether this should be included in the legislative priorities? And then
Yeah.
what is the, since you brought it up, Ann, what is it that you're looking, you wanna have that first bullet point stricken out? Is that what you'd like to see, or what is it we're trying to accomplish?
Yes. I don't think that should be listed in one of our priorities. I think
In
it,
its-
I
in its
think that it
entirety?
requires further council discussion.
In its entirety? That whole first bullet point?
Yes, using of lodging tax for housing.
What if,
I think that the other two bullet points are fantastic, and I think that they're very well supported in our desire for acquiring additional housing solutions.
what about I briefly mentioned that, the in lieu of this from there down, striking that part and still having a priority to pursue the option to have an additional small portion that is dedicated to housing. It's not part of the existing lodging tax scenario. That doesn't hurt anybody except for our guests who are paying lodging tax.
Right.
I don't agree with using lodging tax for housing. I think that that is a very specifically delineated funding source, and that we should find solutions that don't have anything to do with lodging tax.
I would say that just having this part of the agenda, I mean, as far as, legislative option, it doesn't allow us to do anything except that that's what we're promoting. I think that's, I don't think it commits us to anything. It's just that one of the things we're trying to do. It might not, doesn't mean they're going to make it happen anyway. That's one of the things we'd like them to do. I can tell you right now that our three legislative representatives, Steele, Gaynor, and Burnett, are nowhere. We can't work with them on this. That's a block. They will not consider anything. And so we're talking about maybe having legislators help us get there. We don't have that team right now, and so I think it should stay there. It's not like that we're going to use it. We just want to promote it, but I think it should be one of our points of some housing.
I guess my confusion is if the AG already says it's allowed, then why are we pushing this on the legislative priorities if the AG already says it's allowed?
The only thing I said in regards to using current is if we can't get any new, that raising what we can use it in housing for to be a greater AMI, to expand what we're able to do with it and to give us the flexibility to not have to bond. Those are things. If you're saying no to any lodging tax, then that says no to even an additional tax on or housing, separated out from the traditional previously passed lodging tax. What lodging tax is, let's say what it is. It's a sales tax. It's a sales tax applied to hotels, motels, short-term rental. It's a sales tax. So what you'd be saying is, what we're asking for is an additional amount of sales tax added to those rooms, but not for what was passed, but for a new, and that is for housing. And you can, we talked about it at the state level of, not adding this to everybody's, but just allowing those communities that are impacted by tourism to be able to add another fee. And by the way, if you go to Seattle and pay for a room, they add on $4 per room per night. With an additional, and another line item that they're allowed. We could do $2 additional per room. Councilmatic could add that. That's just an additional lodging tax. We would, if we got, but it's just for the same things you can use lodging tax. It's not separated out. All I'm saying is we could add a small amount onto it for us, not as a traditional lodging tax, but as for our housing need, totally separate. We would still be underneath what you pay when you go to Seattle just in lodging tax, but it would meet a need that we have for housing. And that's where we've got to be able to come up with a significant funding stream to address the housing. And or just give up and say, we'll just go the route of other very popular tourist destinations and lose our community. Basically, you'll lose your community over it.
In the interest of moving forward,
true.
I like to restate the idea of keeping that first two sentences of that, and we can call it something else. I mean, I understand that lodging tax is it's got this stigma to it, but let's call it just a sales tax or whatever. Pursue some other added tax revenue for our local housing needs as a legislative priority. And don't call it lodging tax. Because then it just causes all kinds of issues. So just, can we agree to do that?
Another tax, right?
I think that's great, Mike, because that's exactly what the additional bullet points under this priority talk about. And other states have already figured it out. I mean, I've brought it up before, but like the state of Hawaii charges almost 4 times more in property tax for people who are not primary property owners. That's an easy solution that other states have already come to. We don't have to rob other funds like lodging tax to cover this. There are solutions that already work for other states. And I don't think that we should be diverting very specific appropriated funds for other uses when they've already been designated as a specific use. And we should have a conversation about larger programmatic solutions rather than trying to divert funds for something else, because lodging tax is specifically for tourism. And we should be really talking about housing and housing issues. And they are prolific across the United States. And we need to find solutions that work for us in Washington State. And we don't have to reinvent the wheel. Other states have already found great solutions. Utah has solutions. Hawaii has solutions. There are other states that already have solutions. And that's where we should be spending our political capital. We want the state to take us for real. We want them to find us like representative and appropriate in our conversations rather than constantly talking about all sorts of other things. And I think that it's important for us to really focus that political capital on conversations that already have solutions that work really well in other states, rather than trying to divert funds from something else.
Well, I just disagree that you say it's easy. They've got easy solutions. No, our state has been fighting for housing solutions and have not, we're following further and further behind. We keep pouring more money into housing in our housing trust fund, and just the rising cost of housing itself is more than taking that away. We're falling further and further behind. So if it's so easy, why are we falling further and further behind? Leavenworth is going to, what Leavenworth is unique in that we have such a strong tourism economy. We could ask them to help us save this town, even though the state's still gonna, there's no silver bullet that the state's going to come up with. We've got the opportunity though to say, we could tax our guests, whatever, don't call it a lodging tax, but we could have a tax that asks our guests to leave more behind to keep us a community. That's the bottom line. So yeah, Mike, if you get rid of that, calling it a lodging tax and just say, looking for taxing solutions that'll address our need.
Yeah.
But it is going to have to be, the only economy we have that we can ask to help us with is a tourism economy right now.
So we're in agreement.
Yeah, I think we gotta move
No.
on here, and I'd say that if the line.
We've all made our points over and
Yeah.
over, but we should come to a conclusion somehow here.
Is there a motion on the table?
No, not yet.
Not willing to lie. Not, absolutely not willing to lie.
About
If we are not allowed to use lodging tax, we don't skirt around it and sneak and use it. I don't agree with that at all.
That's not what we're saying.
Well, that's what I'm hearing.
No, we're saying a new tax that's just for housing.
What's the new tax?
That's what we're.
It's It's any new tax that we can get dedicated to housing.
But it's not, lodging tax.
No,
It might come from our tourists in some form, but lodging tax is a sales tax. That's what it is. So some sales tax that allows us to do it for housing it's new. It's different. So it's not skirting around anything. It's saying we need a new source.
So point of question here, Seattle's using lodging tax for housing, right? Right. So it is being used in some cities. That's a big city, but they're using it. But they're using it to fund housing. So lodging tax can be used for housing. It's being used in Seattle. But my point is, we don't need to get stuck on it. Okay, we'll call it something else. But
Wait, directly, is Seattle's directly using lodging tax at the hotel?
because they're a big city, they can do that. It's a population center, so they're allowed to use some of their lodging tax.
Okay.
That's what they're talking about.
That was the argument was that it only applied over there, but the Attorney General says, no, it's any lodging tax.
Yeah, so they're using it.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, they're using it. We're just a smaller municipality. So anyway, if we're hung up on that, we need further discussion.
Well, and I mean, you would have to approve any project that came forward with that anyway. So
Right.
that's not what we're asking here. We're just saying we need to come up with a funding stream. We're gonna work at the state level to do that. And quite frankly, you're not gonna get it without asking for it from our tourists.
Sure.
I'm cool with, taking it as a separate tax, but not taking lodging tax as it is right now from the hotels. I'm
That's,
cool with an additional
that's-
tax. You want to change the language, additional tax?
that's,
Yeah.
that's not gonna be lobbied for because it's already there.
Okay.
And you guys can.
Yeah, then the
Until
avenue is the
project comes
40% of
forward
second
that
homes.
asks you to
You don't worry.
use that, you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
One last thing, I would like to see maybe us put as part of the legislative priorities that we push harder on taxing second homeowners,
But
Taxing what?
second homeowners.
second homeowners.
I think that should be in
Be
the,
on there.
I think
and
that should be on the
that's-
priorities.
Fee 'em.
It is.
There's the per bullet point there.
It is,
It
it's
is.
there, it's one of the options. And like I said, I mean, pursue any and all options, folks.
Yeah.
Because these aren't in order of priority, right? They are the
They're
priorities.
just any and all options that
Okay.
would give us a funding stream. Right now, again, you talk about lawsuits. I mean, I've been told that if we tried to do a fee on a second home, that'll
We would
be,
get you too.
it'll get you too, because, and that's why it'd be great to have the state take that on. Right? That they give us, they say you can do it.
But other states do.
But
State. I agree.
Their state constitution allows them, ours does not. So you're
That's why
talking about-
a constitutional
Yeah.
amendment, I
Right.
agree, we talked about, yeah, I think that's,
So that's the big deal.
constitutional
I agree.
amendment, and that would have to
Yeah.
be passed by the citizens, and it would be, I mean, that's not, again, an easy solution, but it is,
Yeah.
it is something that's, and there was a bill last session about trying to change the Constitution, so that taxes could be
Okay.
appropriated
Conversation.
differently, but it didn't go anywhere, so. So let's strike that and move it forward with that, the language of hotel motel taken out.
Sounds good to me.
What sort of language correction are we talking about here? I would like to know what that exactly is.
Mike, why don't you frame it?
Well, I'm looking at the first bullet point and say pursue using an additional tax on lodging as a funding stream for workforce housing. And then also maybe at the bottom and to have the flexibility to use these funds in support of workforce housing, serving residents up to 120% of AMI. So be clear, specific, that it's an additional
additional tax and that we're trying to expand the usage as it's currently allowed.
What's the additional tax?
Well, that's what, right now, we don't have.
So why would we be, why are we even voting on this motion? Why don't we make it the motion the way you're talking about?
Well,
That's what.
I'm
that's what
looking
he's
to
saying.
amend the motion so that we can vote on it with that and garner support from the bulk of the council. And I think that specificity is what we're looking for, and that we are not looking to take from the allocation of lodging taxes that currently exists. We're looking to have the option to levy additional taxes on our tourists so that we can use that towards housing. And I think the wording of up to 120% of AMI is important as well. Yeah, I think those two things are very useful for what we're trying to do. Yeah. That's it. That makes sense?
No.
We don't know what if we just, let's make up a term, if we lobby the state and the state says, yeah, you can do it, we're gonna call it the Carl Flore community improvement.
Call it a
No,
housing, you're gonna call it
a housing
community fund.
community housing improvement tax.
Yeah, right.
But it is applied to, guests and lodging, but it doesn't reduce the current lodging tax amount.
Bill. Like a hotel bill.
Yeah,
So what?
yeah, so when you get your,
It'd be another
you get your hotel bill.
Can you
Like-
say not lodging tax?
That's what we're saying.
Yeah.
No, I'm in your
Correct.
motion.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
it
that's what
would
we're
be,
saying.
it wouldn't be traditional, the current lodging tax.
It would be a
It is
separate line item.
A separate.
It's separate.
Yeah.
Call it
have a
Leavenworth Community
different-
Housing, and they would just pay this extra fee towards our own community. These the tourists. It would be
And
like
where's the fee coming from?
From the
that'd be
guest.
on your hotel bill. Your hotel bill would be your hotel night.
It'd be another fee on the.
Oh, it's
hotel
on
bill.
the fee?
It'd be on the
Yeah.
bill as a separate item.
I don't see how we can vote on that tonight unless it's all written out.
Well, we're just voting on whether we want our administration to direct our lobbyists to pursue that.
We're just pursuing it at the state. We don't get to decide it here. We decide whether we want to try to go ask them to give us the authority to do it.
Are you good with that, Ann?
I'm okay with that language because it removes us from lodging tax. I would also like to recommend that we reorganize the 3 bullet points in that even though they aren't listed in priority, it also assumes a priority list when someone is just generally reading it with regard to our housing priorities for these 3 bullet points. And I would recommend the bottom one, be our number 1 priority because I really think that a change in our constitution at the state law level is the priority with regard to what has been successful in other states.
I support that.
Okay.
I get, yeah, I got it now. Thanks.
Okay, you want to make a motion to that?
Give it a go. Let's see, I gotta go back up to the, so I can do this as amended, kind of?
Yeah.
Okay. That's the hard part. The Leavenworth City Council moves to approve resolution 29-2025, legislative priorities for 2026 as amended for our discussion.
I'm all confused because the numbers are wrong.
Right.
Isn't it 29, 2025?
New tax and reordering.
To basically reword the first bullet point, move it down to the third spot and move the third spot up to the first spot.
All right.
Second.
Moved by Mike, seconded by Jane. Any other discussion, questions? Is that okay, Ann?
Sounds great.
All right. All those in favor, let me see your hands. Opposed? 2 opposed?
I was trying to vote for it. but-
I have
Were
to
you?
read
Yeah.
something. I have to read something, print it out.
All right. So you were for it?
For it,
Oh,
Okay.
as amended.
okay.
Did Sharon abstain?
5 and. you're
I'm abstaining because I
5
have to,
for.
I have to
and
see
1
it.
abstain. All right. We will move on to our law enforcement contract. Selby.
Thank you, Mayor. Council for you tonight is for your consideration approval of a new 4-year contract with the Sheriff's Department for the city's law enforcement. Mayor and I met with representatives of the county, the sheriff, and the city administrator a couple of times over the course of the summer and fall. They basically said, these are our costs. If you want our services, this is what you're paying. So there was very little room, actually zero room for negotiation on the fee. One thing we did add in here, based on concerns I'd heard from folks, is a prohibition on clumping. So we put in a stipulation that and when they're patrolling downtown for festivals and events, that they would be patrolling in packs of 2, not 3, 4, 5, 6. And that is really the only substantive change that we made to the contract, other than the rate.
Livermore City Council moves to approve and authorize the mayor to sign the 2026 to 29 interlocal law enforcement service agreement with Chelan County.
Second. Moved by Mike, seconded by Zeke. Questions?
So is it, how, do we do these every 4 years? I think we just did one every 3 years. Seems like it goes up 15% every year. This one looks like it only goes up 4%.
Yeah, I think it was
That's nice.
It was
See.
50% the first year, because this is the way the cycle goes. We're approving this, then they go to negotiations in 26. So the 15% increase is reflective of their last collective bargaining agreement, which came through after we had signed their contract. And that was with all the COVID increases that people realized. And that's why the increase is so high at the start.
Okay.
So tell me again, so why is it a 15% increase? Because
it's reflective of the cost of living adjustments that were made to their collective bargaining agreements after we signed our last one, which incorporated all the huge increase in costs during and after COVID.
Yeah, when they give us a 3-year contract with a limited increase, right?
Mhm.
But then that increase is catching up. And so then when you open a new contract, you're gonna make up for that difference.
So it's real nice, 4%, 4%.
The impact on budget is only that.
So the cost increase is retroactive based on historical costs from COVID. Am I hearing that correctly?
That's the way it was explained to us.
Well, yeah, it's making up for those. We're not going back and paying. I mean, adding to that, but that's why the catch up is being done in this first year.
Interestingly, that hasn't been an inflationary percentage that we have seen over the years since COVID. So I guess, I mean, I'm not interested in holding this up because I know that we need law enforcement support, but I do think that it's important to know where these costs are coming from and to make sure that they are appropriate, particularly with a 15.5% increase. And I also think that it is very important for us to keep in mind and maybe evaluate and further discuss at what point do we cross the threshold of providing our own law enforcement rather than paying for 3 Chelan County employees that are not here 100%. I feel like that is a conversation that we should be having at some point when we're nearing $1 million in law enforcement costs.
A lot.
Do we split a sheriff with Kashmir?
I mean,
We're paying for 3 FTEs. I don't know how they're divvying that out, but I'm fairly certain that we're not getting 40 hours a week for 3 employees in the city limits.
we split it with, Chelan, Branson.
So
The whole county.
the way it works, this documentation is in your packet. They estimate a cost per full-time employee at a deputy level of $270,952 for 2026. We're paying for 3 full-time employees, so 3 FTE equivalents. Casmer is paying for 2.5. Chelan's paying for 6.3.
And that, I mean, that 15% is is not a cost of, it's a cost of living, it's a cost of doing business, but it's not necessarily the cost of living. And one of the things that impacts that is the state keeps adding new trainings that they have to certify them for, and that takes them out of, certain days out of ability to patrol and all of those things that keeps going up. So, I mean, it's the cost of getting people into law enforcement has gone up, just period. I mean, there's, they're constantly scrambling and to try to fill their positions, so.
Is it possible that they could come up here and tell us how that 15% breaks out? Explain it to us.
They've given us that.
The information that we were provided is in your packet. That's all. I can say on that.
What's in here is what you guys got.
That's exactly it. And then the rationale was what I stated earlier. The last contract was before their collective bargaining agreements were renegotiated.
Yeah, I would assume, just as being a public servant, this 15.5% is not, it's not like, it's just costs have gone up. They had a collective bargaining agreement, they got their teeth kicked in during COVID, and they've been having a rough time, and they're losing employees, and they had to entice them to be part of the service. And so they probably raised their salaries, and all of that stuff is above and beyond the cost of living, right? So this is what it costs now to have a sheriff on staff.
Yeah.
Well, we even know for our own, like cars and equipment, they've doubled in price. So I'm sure that they've doubled in price for these folks. We have analyzed in the last 15 years, at least twice, the cost of starting our own department back up again. And each time we do it, it is definitely significantly more than the sheriff contract is. And even I'd say 5 or 6 years ago when we did it, it was above 1.2 million just to start, and we were only paying 675,000 at that time. So that cost at that time, 6 years ago, 1.2 million, today is probably 1.6 or 7 million. So, those costs are going to continue to grow even as these contracts continue to grow.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that we can't look at it at any given time,
Right.
but the reality is it's going to be expensive, and insurance is one of their biggest hits because people like to sue the officers. And that is a huge one that each time we've looked at that, our own insurance company has come back and said, you don't want your own police department. They take the most claims of any department across the board.
Yeah, so
to insure them.
Yeah, it's not just paying, it's not paying the payroll.
Yeah, that's true.
it's not just the payroll.
Yeah,
it's
right.
It's payroll, it's equipment, it's space, it's all of those pieces, but, and then again,
City council.
the coverage is, you've got to have more than what you need because there's somebody always going to be out, vacations, this, that, the other, so.
Way more expensive.
It's going to be, you wouldn't want to go there.
Just out of curiosity, when the sheriffs hold their trainings and things inside Osborne, is there a charge?
We have not been charging them, no.
I didn't think so.
Okay.
Dan has a question.
And you should just speak up.
Yeah.
Sorry, just waiting my turn. I wanted to hear everything that everybody had to say. I think that we need to evaluate this proposal very critically. I think that a 15.5% increase is very significant. It does not align with CPIs. And I think that there's an opportunity for pushing back on that because there's a couple of things to take into consideration. And one of them is the fact that the county has not had a balanced budget for a couple of years, and they are in a deficit of nearly $4 million and have been for a couple of years. and they may be looking for a way to recoup some of those funds. And I think that that needs to be a part of our consideration because our ability for having law enforcement should not be associated with the county not appropriately managing their own budget. And I think that needs to be a part of the discussion.
All I'd have to say to that, Ann, is the sheriff is under the county, but budget is separately from the county, and he covers his budget.
It's not, though.
It is. It is. It's separate. It's a separate budget from the counties running their own problems, separate from what the sheriff just has to cover his expenses.
The sheriff is not a revenue generating department. He is
No.
completely funded by the budget associated with the county commissioners.
Right, but he's not raising money for the county to cover their other problems. He's raising money for him, for his budget. That's all it's covering. It's like an enterprise fund or whatever. He's going and he's grabbing and he's saying, this is what I need. And they're telling him, no, we're not giving you that. This is what you're gonna get. And then he's got to make it work. And that's what he's got to budget. And that's what we pay a percentage, a share of. But it's based on his real costs.
To your point, Commissioner Hesberg, if you don't want to approve this contract tonight and you want the sheriff to come and have a further discussion with the council to justify the 5 to 50% increase, we can do that. Under section 9.5 of the existing agreement, there's an automatic renewal for successive one-year periods with an automatic increase of 5% for each year of automatic extension. It's something that Chelan was considering doing, but my understanding is they did move forward and sign the sheriff's contract. But this is your decision, your vote.
I think that would be beneficial. I would appreciate some time with the sheriff to justify the 15.5% because I feel like it's relatively high, considering past contracts that we have had with the sheriff's office and the resources that we have been provided under that contract. And I think it would be worthy of a discussion. It's a lot of money.
I don't think that it would be. I think 15% isn't egregious. You said the cost of equipment, capital equipment has gone up double. The gas went up another 6 cents this summer. Everything is up. Everything is up. Hiring police officers around the country past COVID with different things, the different police-related incidences around the country, people didn't want to become police officers. They were offering $10,000, $40,000 bonuses to hire police officers. The salary went up. I don't think 15% is egregious. I agree with the sentiment that they were taking it during COVID. During COVID, it was great. You could fly anywhere for $200. I had a whole empty airplane. Well, guess what? The rates went up when everything went back to normal. You have to pay for it sometime. And we're paying for it a little bit now. 15%, I don't think is egregious. I don't think it's 50%. I don't think it's enough to stop signing this contract, personally.
Well, we do have a motion on the floor made by Mike and seconded by Zeke. If we've got the discussion, you can turn it down and then we can talk about next steps, or you can pass it. But let's just go ahead and move it to a vote. Okay, all those in favor, let me see your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, all opposed. And we got 4 to 2 and we passed it. All right, we will move on. Item 12 is a professional services agreement for Village of Lights. Selby?
Thank you. Just hold on, let me get that queued up again. All right, tonight, the council is being asked to approve a professional services agreement with TBMM Wenatchee to provide flagging operations, traffic control for the Village of Lights Festival, which is organized by the Chamber of Commerce. In this year, there has been a request to increase the number of days that traffic control is conducted. Traditionally, when I started here in 2022, it was done the first 3 Saturdays of December. Last year, they added a couple of weekends at either end because of where Christmas and New Year's were falling. Also, there has been a huge uptick in the number of visitors coming to Leavenworth Thanksgiving weekend or the weekend after Thanksgiving due to the fact that the chamber advertises that the lights are turned on at that time. So this year, there will be traffic control services Friday and Saturday of Thanksgiving and all the remaining Saturdays of December, as well as the first Saturday of January. We did issue an RFP, received two proposals. TBMM, the local operator, was the more advantageous proposal. After we met, we added some additional days of service. So that final contract amount is $136,866 for those days of traffic control to support the Village of Lights Festival.
I would.
The Leavenworth City Council moves to award and authorizes the mayor to execute a professional service agreement with TBMM LLC for the 2025 Village of Lights Traffic Control Services Project in the amount of $136,866.
Did we get a second? Oh, Mike, okay. You're so quiet over there. Any other questions?
So yeah, my question would be, last year we've added, who is making the determination to add these weekends? I know part of it's the calendar, but
And what's the calendar? There's a group that meets.
and it's that multi-purpose,
Is that-
state patrol.
Yeah, and it's-
Cascade Medical.
Yeah, it's
all of them.
really run by WashDOT. The additional weekends or additional days were requested by emergency management, Cascade Medical and Fire District in particular.
So they requested 2 additional
The
weekends?
additional days, yeah, the Friday after Thanksgiving as well as the Saturday after January 1st.
So in January, we had New Year's thing,
Yeah.
Thanksgiving
Yeah,
weekend.
based on the fact that New Year's lands on a, what is it, Wednesday or Thursday? The expectation is that people will take that whole week off and that we'll still have a large number of visitors in Leavenworth that weekend. A lot of changes were made over the last couple of years, all of which were to increase public safety as well as make sure the traffic was flowing. From a public safety standpoint, we now have a detour that we have a parking prohibition on Pine Street and Ski Hill, which are the main corridors that emergency management requests to use. And also we've added flaggers to Shaston and to North Road to make sure that North Road doesn't get backed up, because traditionally there would be a 1 to 2 or more or longer mile backup on North Road.
Right.
So Highway 2's jammed, North Road's jammed, Chumpstick's jammed, and the ambulances can't move. So these changes have really increased the safety of the larger community. Any other questions?
Yeah, so they just basically, we're adding 2 additional weekends.
Yeah.
That's why we've got this.
And the Friday after Thanksgiving. This will be the first year that we've done anything on the Friday after Thanksgiving.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to kind of sort that out, just where that determination was coming from.
Yeah.
It's the good news, bad news, right? I mean, it's the good news was we got rid of those flipping the switch and that gridlock that happened 3 weekends. But what we did was spread it out to many more weekends with less problems, but
more expensive,
more days of it. Right.
Is the city satisfied with the way it went last year?
I was, yes. In fact, I think we were. The event coordination center actually closed a little early a few of those Saturdays because things were doing so well.
Yeah.
Also, with the spreading out of the event, our lodging tax has grown as well. And it is a lodging tax that does fund this. By not having that crush just those 3 days with the flip of the switch and spreading it out over the course of Thanksgiving through February when the lights are on. I think we've increased our lodging stays, spread them out over time. We're generating more lodging tax revenue, and lodging tax is paying for this.
Right, that is the point.
I know the hotels are getting calls in January or so asking, oh, are the lights still on? People are enjoying even, into February. It's great.
Okay.
Okay.
My wife had complaints from people this week saying, you should have called us to let us know that the lights weren't on yet.
Oh, they're already here. They came in it. Oh,
That's
wow.
such a shame.
Yeah.
All right, that's kind of what I want to figure out.
Ann
Thanks.
had a question?
And
No, I'm aligned with what Zeke was asking. My question was more like, what is the data that supports us expanding the support of more days represented by traffic controls?
It is a combination of the traffic counters that DOT has as well as the pedestrian counters that the chamber provides.
So it's not just one organization asking for more support.
No, it's not.
It's more data driven.
It is.
Great. That's what I was
That's
looking for.
good to
Thank
hear.
you.
I'm just thinking, geez, 2 extra weekends.
Yeah, a lot of discussions are about which was the busiest day of 23, 24. What was the second busiest day of 23, 24? And most of those busiest days fall in this time frame.
yeah, and actually new to this whole thing was that post Thanksgiving was actually higher than the first weekend in the first Saturday of December. So
Last year.
last year.
Yeah,
I remember that weekend.
And
vividly.
that was what caught us.
Yeah,
We were
ready for it.
And
Yeah.
guess what? We just got snow.
It's gonna lighten up, paths are gonna be open, yeah.
People are gonna be sledding. I mean.
Yeah.
It's gone already.
Let's get around.
God, I hope.
Okay.
Any other questions? Seeing none, all those in favor, let me see your hand. It passes unanimously. We've got one more action item, and that's the new one that was added, and that's the not to exceed. And this includes not just the traffic control there, but also our WASDA, the state patrol, the sheriff's office, all that overtime gets thrown into the mix. And so,
And if you didn't like the conversation about the sheriff's contract, you might not want to look at the line item that shows overtime for the sheriff's department.
Focus on pulled and evaluated.
Hey, where are we?
So that's just,
that's the new one that's just passed out.
Trying to get it?
No,
Is it?
yeah.
no, this one.
11 per day on Saturday.
This is the sheriff's bill for this.
No, it's all
Yeah, the
combined.
sheriff's overtime, they requested approval for 11 overtime shifts.
Yeah.
For each of these, for this each Saturday, and then 6 overtime shifts for the Sundays. And so if they do fill them all, and they won't all be filled just by the sheriffs, I don't think they're gonna get the staff to fill all these overtime shifts that they've required, so they'll be reaching out to other agencies. I've seen Douglas County Sheriff's here, I've seen Moses Lake Police here in the past. East Wenatchee. So they are in charge of farming out and trying to fill these shifts that they've requested.
We're just trusting that they really do need this extra.
We're trusting that they need them. Part of the rationale for wanting boots on the ground is the rash of bomb scares that we've had due to the chamber's web cameras.
Right.
So they want to be here in the case that a bomb threat is made.
Except usually, well, my point is that bomb threats get called in anyway, so that, I mean.
It's been a minute, hasn't it? We haven't had one for a while. have we?
Well,
We haven't for a while.
Yeah.
Hopefully, knock on wood.
yeah, right.
Just for clarification, are we talking about the additional 350K for
Yeah,
traffic control and additional public safety? I just want to make sure I'm looking at the right thing.
Yes, we are looking at that. It's
Not to exceed.
It's not to exceed 350. I think the estimate's closer to a 311, but we want a little bit of padding. That's 137-ish for TBMM, just over 100,000 for sheriff's deputies, 35,000 for state patrol, and 35,000 for WashDOT.
We already approved the 137.
Yeah, this is just wrapped into that.
Yep, you already approved the 137.
This would essentially be a budget amendment for me. I think she's got 100,000 is already budgeted. And I'm thinking that should be 125,000. But we would be adding 225,000 to the budget for this. Yeah.
Seems really high.
I'm not disagreeing with you, Ann. It does
It
seem high.
seems, I'm sorry. I feel like I'm pushing back on a bunch of agenda items tonight, but like this seems really, really high for just Christmas lighting. Especially when we're talking about a near $1 million contract with the sheriff's office. It feels like they're asking us to fill their budget gap.
If council wants to direct me to ask the sheriffs to reduce the number of patrols, I will do that.
We're already paying for them to exist in our city as a full-time employee, 3 of them.
Three full-time employees, that's 40 hours a week, but we're talking about 24 hours a day, wanting to have some sort of presence. It doesn't go very far, just,
8 to 5.
yeah, just a.
FYI, it's not, yeah. I mean, whatever we get from them for this it's dedicated because of the
Village
event.
Yes.
It's gonna be additional, so you tell how much you wanna do and.
Do we have a number, like, yeah, why is it so much higher than state patrol? Like, how many more sheriffs?
State Patrol only has 2 people coming for 5 of the days. The sheriff has asked for 9 deputies downtown, plus 1 patrol person that Chumstick and Fur, helping with traffic, and a supervisor at the event coordinating center for Friday and all the Saturdays with except 1. On Sundays, 6 patrols downtown. It's a total of 108 shifts at $85 an hour plus.
How many?
What's that?
How many total
Shifts
officers?
was 108 shifts.
108
Shifts
total.
averaging between 10 and 10 and a half hours, including the travel time. And it estimates at 1,188 hours at a billing rate of $85 an hour.
I'm sorry. I feel like this needs to be better justified. This is a third of our total annual budget for the sheriff's office. I feel like this hasn't been well justified for us. This is a huge ask.
This is 2 additional weekends than last year. When we're looking at face to face, right? It's a crazy number. We're at this is 2 additional weekends.
It's more deputies than we've paid for in the past 2.
What do we pay for in the last?
I think it was, if I remember correctly, I think it was 6, but it was asked for 9 this time.
Where does the money come from? The
Lodging
350 lodging tax.
This is all logic.
It's all lodging tax.
Right.
Okay.
This is the chambers event, right?
And I'm glad you're pushing back because I think it's important that we do that. I think about, my business makes in the month of December way more than, any of the other months, right? Because there's so many more people coming to our town. And so we have an inflated cost of law enforcement during the month of December. It's not shocking. And we have very clearly understanding the need for it because of the massive amount of people. I also think about when we look at the possibilities, and this is what we plan for when we have emergency services, is the what ifs, right? And we staff accordingly because it would be horrible to run out of resources when we need them the most. And this time of year is when we need them most. And I think as much as it sucks to spend that kind of money, I think that it would be irresponsible to not staff it properly. And maybe we could have them justify why they want 9 versus 6, because we didn't have any issues before we had 6. But if we had an issue, would we have learned the hard way that 6 wasn't enough? I don't know, maybe it would be worth having them come and tell us why they want 9. But I'm not necessarily opposed to this because, well, that drawn out logic I just used, but
I will clarify, in past years, we've had Pacific Security supplement this.
Right.
I'm not asked Pacific Security to come. Last year, we paid the sheriff's $46,679, and we paid Pacific Security $25,000. So the total for security was $71,808. So this is an increase over that, but I did decide to not ask Pacific Security to do any patrols given the fact that we have armed officers down there this year.
So we're paying a premium, we're just paying a premium for 3 extra
Right.
to supplement what we had for, yeah.
Instead of dividing.
Yeah.
How much money is in our current lodging tax fund, or what do you call it, account?
4 million.
What are you asking?
Fund balance for lodging tax.
Balance.
Like as of the end of last month?
Yeah.
The actual cash on hand?
Just curious.
More than
Take it out of
what-
lodging tax.
More
Take it
than what we would worry about, but 4 million.
Good, okay, thanks.
Okay.
I thought it
It
might,
ebbs and flows
yeah,
between 2 and 4 million.
thank you.
We're on the cusp of.
Okay, what do you want to do?
Can we get them in here by Thanksgiving? I mean, what's the, I mean, what are we, what are we doing here? 2 days, right? I mean,
This is a huge ask.
Is it legal to take out of lodging tax?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, just,
Yeah, it's a lot, but it's not it's explainable. Like the amount adds up because they're showing us, why this is the number of hours and it's all dollars and cents. It's just a lot of hours because we have more people that they're asking for. So the real question is,
More people,
do
more.
we want to hire 9 officers each of those days?
I don't feel like the numbers have been justified, and this is a huge augmentation compared to historic numbers. And this would set a very large precedent for a much larger ask in the future for us to substantiate their staffing costs. This is a big change for us.
yeah, but we're asking for 2 additional weekends versus last year. Okay, so that's 2 additional weekends versus last year. We're not supplementing with Pacific, which is a less expensive agency. So we're paying a premium on that. I mean, that's so that the numbers get a little closer when you crunch them, right? When you compare last year versus this year, or the past couple of years. On my watch as a council, I don't want to be the person that votes against getting them in here and saving money and having 3 less people and then the incident happens. Like, what's the value of safety? I think we should evaluate it before 2 days before we hire them next year. I think we should get a little more lead time to discuss this. But at this point, I'm not willing to not go forward with the full package.
Do we have other alternatives though? Like we already have alternative security for our city. It's not all Chelan County Sheriff's Office. Is that a talking point?
Of course, it's a talking point.
Yeah, and 2 days. But you have tomorrow, then you've got Thanksgiving.
That is much more affordable. Honestly, we have Pacific Security doing all sorts of things for us. Is that something that we can lean into rather than paying an exorbitant cost for the Chelan County Sheriff's Office that also might be trying to fill their funding gap?
On this topic of like preparedness, I don't think Pacific Security is offering us much. I don't think they receive any of the training for mass casualty incidents or, dealing with catastrophic events, right? And that's where I totally think that this is hard to vote against. And I do not think that we are setting a precedent that we're at risk of getting continued escalation. We can evaluate. I think one thing last year went well, and we probably should evaluate this sooner than later next year. But the absence of big snow events was helpful. We don't have a lot of good data to go off of, but we will have more data now, and we can look at this and say, you know what? I think that 9 is too much. And we can ask them when they ask for 9 next year, we can say, nah, let's do 7. But I think we should look at that with scrutiny this year and compare it to last year and then move forward with that mindset. Not that we're now establishing a new norm.
well, I think a lot of the sheriffs that come and do this are from out of the area. The sheriff has to have the people and still do their job. So it seems to me like last year, there were sheriffs that came from out of the area.
Are you saying not Chelan County Sheriff?
Yeah,
Yeah, I did mention, Douglas County will fill shifts.
yeah.
Most
Your
are like
concern?
Phillips, we've seen
Yeah.
Wenatchee, we've seen Wenatchee.
Yeah,
But that's all coordinated through the sheriff.
Yes.
Their training and
yeah.
They get
They speak
them.
the same language, they
Yeah.
operate in the same kind of
Same
capacity.
And one of the things I'll say about dropping Pacific for this particular, when you've got these kind of crowds and that is, you get a different response and respect from the
Yeah, you do.
uniformed officer than you do from the Pacific Security. And I mean, all of that and their training, and like you said, it's just that level. I think that premium that you're paying for makes sense. There's a reason for it, and I think it's justified to go that route versus Pacific Security on these kind of events.
I can, for this year, I could vote for this, but I would like for them to show me what the justification for 6 to 9. Every day.
Yep.
I would like to have that.
I've already made a note to make sure that we can bring these costs to you much sooner than the Tuesday before Thanksgiving.
And we could invite the sheriff to attend the council meeting.
Sure. Or the deputy, yeah.
it's a big event. It's a big weekends for us. I think it's fair.
Is it possible for them to be up here this year? Is that like not gonna happen just because of what we're able to schedule?
What's that?
Can we get a sheriff's explanation this year for this? Or is that like not,
I surely ask.
okay? Let's ask.
I mean, after the fact, I mean, of getting this thing going, but
Well, they're often, the council has some big questions, rightly so. And if they do, they don't, but then next year we can look at it a lot closer. But if we can get an explanation, that would make it a little easier to swallow.
I think it would be helpful to get out in front of this a little bit earlier in the season as well, so that we can have a robust conversation with the council before it's an imperative decision timing sort of situation.
But it's a do or die thing.
right.
And you can also, maybe just a quick nudge to the sheriff, like, if he had justified that 15% by saying just some basic understanding of where it came from, would have resolved a lot of this too, up front. I mean, I looked through all of the stuff they provided, but it doesn't really, the only place to compare last year and this year is in the end, they just say this is the difference in the total cost per full-time employee, but it doesn't say where that cost comes from.
Right. You can't track it very well.
So just a little bit of data would be nice and solves a lot of problems.
Like Anne's, the tone of her voice and maybe shame on the city. This is like 2 times the amount. It's like the day before these weekends start.
Mhm.
Like this is like, you had to expect us to kind of, like we're being very patient about this. This is not cool. That's my piece.
The Leavenworth City Council moves to authorize a not to exceed expenditure of $350,000 to provide traffic control and additional public safety officers for the 2025 Village of Lights Christmastown event.
Second.
Moved by Shane, seconded by Mike. We got all of our comments and questions. All right, all those in favor?
Point of order, Mr. Mayor,
Yeah,
is there any opportunity for public comment on this issue?
would you like to comment?
I would love to comment
Oh,
on
come on up.
Ron Duncan, B24 Cascade. I really appreciate Ann trying to put some financial accountability in the council. I've seen so many votes at the council that are up against the wall and, well, I guess we have to vote for this because we're up against the wall. The council should not be up against the wall, and a compromised position, I would hope, would be if the sheriff thinks he needs 9, the next council meeting, he better be standing here and explaining that to keep the 9 for the rest of the time. You don't have to do the whole thing for the whole deal, 9 guys. He could be here in 2 weeks. And if he's not willing to stand here and justify it, maybe he doesn't really need 9 guys. there's a compromise spot here. I don't think we need to throw financial accountability out the window. I think we can find a way to rein it back in and not be up against the wall with council votes. Just a thought.
Yeah.
Thanks, Ron.
Feedback taken.
Thank you, Ron. I don't think we need to rush into this.
Well, I got the numbers from him a week ago, so
And the fact is, I mean, I think you can still tell them after this first week or whenever, if we're, to reduce those numbers.
Can we reduce the contract or?
They've sometimes haven't billed us for that estimated amount because they weren't able to fill them all. So that's always been.
I think we need to be strategic about this contract, though. We can't just hope that they don't charge us for everything because we've made a contract for everything. I think that this needs to be discussed and we need to have the sheriffs come and discuss this with us.
Yeah.
I'm not voting for this, just so you guys know. This is too last minute for something so imperative.
Agreed, and I don't like to put my back against the wall either, but we do have this beginning in 3 days. So.
Yeah, but the sheriff's office should have had this conversation with us months ago. That's not our problem.
I agree. Well, it is our problem. And we actually, we have public service experts, our emergency responders that we asked to advise us on the needs that we have for our event that we put on. And they've advised us. And now we're gonna balk at what they say, or it's good to question them. But
We've also had a standard of support from the sheriff's office for years, and now they're changing it. So we can continue with that standard, and they can't hit us with some change last minute and say that it's imperative that we support it immediately.
now I wonder how we get this in front of us sooner, because.
no, this is my fault. I'm going to take full ownership from this. I'm looking back. I got his numbers on October 22nd was when he gave me these numbers. And I failed to bring that to you at your last meeting. And that's on me. That's my fault. And I'm sorry that I put you guys your backs up against the wall. I did not intend to put you in this position. I also thought that I could have signed up on this on my own without involving you as part of their contract. But because this was such a huge cost increase, I wanted you to see it. So that's why it's before you now, and it wasn't on your agenda before.
I really
Help me-
appreciate that, Selby. Thank you for that. Truly.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Question, help me unpack this. I've been kind of saying this whole time about 2 extra weekends, reducing Pacific and adding to, can you help me break down the numbers a little bit, or Chantel, like, what is the real, again, I'm staring at $227,000 versus 86. I feel like that gets a little closer with 2 weekends. I mean, I want to be able to compare apples to apples. Right?
Hold, please.
I'm not sure I actually have that data.
Please.
Selby has done this.
Hold, please.
And
Hold, please.
yeah,
So 227 last year.
I've given him data, but I'm not sure. about the
310 or whatever. This is what we're looking at.
227 last year.
So
Right.
if 2024, it cost the city $227,000.
Right.
Right.
This year it's costing $311,000. There is an increase for the buses that we put. Now, I've been asking for bollards, so we don't have to buy buses anymore. I have no idea why this cost has increased by the school district. We used to pay about $750, then it was $1,100, now it's $1,800, and I have no idea why it's up to $3,400.
Yeah, why
Okay, so the school, okay.
But that's minor, right?
Yeah. Well,
The sheriff
double,
went from 46 to 100,000.
double.
We did not do Pacific Security.
Right.
We, state patrol, these are estimates 35,000. Last year, the total costs were 29 and 27,000.
Yeah.
And the big jump was the flaggers. We added on to the contract with the flaggers because WashDOT asked us to add operations to Shaston, add PCMS message boards. We were asked to implement no parking for the emergency management routes. Those were contract additions that we made. And now we've added days and we're up to the 136,000.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
everything went up.
So while we're adding traffic control services, that doesn't necessarily mean we're adding law enforcement services, right? They're not equal. They're not, if we're adding more traffic control days, we're adding law enforcement days,
They're
right?
not even.
Well, we're doing two different functions, right?
I mean, there is a deputy who is involved in traffic control. There is a deputy who's at the event coordination center at the fire district, and then the rest are foot patrols.
And they're primarily, again, in the downtown core. They're not traffic control. You're right. That's different.
So yeah, so we just look at the
I'm just trying to discern the difference between the Chelan County Sheriff's ask for additional sheriff deputies during Christmas lighting versus what we're talking about with traffic control that's on the screen right now, because they're very different action items with the council. They are potentially linked, but they're completely different items that we're discussing.
Well, they're all included in that big picture total, though. Both traffic control and sheriff's contractor both put together in support of the event.
traffic control and public safety.
Right. So those numbers are, yeah, the
Traffic control,
311 and
public
the
safety.
227 are complete.
I can't explain this, but in 2023, I don't have any data for paying the sheriffs. Okay? I don't know if they're going to bill us or what, but I don't have any data. The cost per day of active traffic management in that year was 45,000, including, but or not including public safety.
Okay.
And we did have 25 for Pacific Security. This year, the cost per day is 44,000.
Okay.
We've added the number of days, the cost has gone up.
and we're now using
Marginally.
Pacific Security and we're adding, we're supplementing with 3 more sheriff.
Correct.
So, I mean, yeah, when you put it that way, I mean, the numbers,
Yeah.
You saying in 23, we paid 45,000 a day? And this year, we're paying 44,000?
Yeah.
And last year, if you look at last year, which got, again, 23 is missing the sheriff for whatever reason, but last year it's 37 and now we go to 44.
We're at an extra day, right?
Well, that's per day.
Because we started hitting the traffic control really hard last year.
And last year, it
That was
was,
the big-
we did it more days, we did it in a different way.
Yeah.
And that, we never had flaggers at North Road and Chumstick before.
Right.
And that really kept North Road flowing last
Who
year.
made a difference? Yeah.
We implemented a new detour through,
Fine.
Pine,
Right.
back onto the Chumstick, so, that takes people off of the Chumstick into the neighborhood where we have a prohibition on parking. And that alleviated a lot of the traffic congestion on Chumstick Highway. We have PCN message boards in Peshastin on Highway 2 that encourage people to stay on Highway 2 if they're heading toward Leavenworth as their final destination, because most people's GPS will tell them to sneak in by going down North Road.
right.
We had flaggers in Peshastin talking to people, deterring them from going through North Road to get to Leavenworth. They were turning people around. And this is all things that we believe did a really good job for our traffic control last year.
And kept it open for emergency.
And I don't know if folks remember, but we at first prohibited left-hand turns onto Chumstick from North Road.
Right.
That was an absolute disaster. So we regrouped,
Pivoted, yeah.
thought again, and again, this is a multi-agency coordinated effort, and we're taking the lead from WashDOT from here.
Right.
And I apologize for bringing this to you at the last minute. It was not my intention. It won't happen.
Well, I'm glad you unpacked. I mean, that shows a lot. That was a
Yeah,
great slide.
yeah.
Thank you. That was a
Yeah.
good one. That makes sense.
Yeah.
It's good to see, going back to the sheriff's contract, everything went up. Makes me feel a little better about the sheriff's contract we approved. I mean, the buses went up double. Yeah.
Okay, we do have a motion by Shane and Mike. Are we done discussion?
I'm done.
All right, all those in favor, let me see your hand.
The cost went down from 2023.
Opposed?
Not bad at that.
And it's 5-1. All right, we are completed with those and we'll go to council reports. Sharon.
On the 13th of November, I attended the PRSA meeting via Zoom. You've already heard about the stuff going on there. November 17th, attended the Chelan Douglas Health Board meeting via Zoom. Had a health district report regarding possible layoffs and furloughs discussion. Also discussed the dollar cut for the WIC program, or not dollar, money cut for the WIC program. Women, infants, and children, I think it is. Discuss the street food vendors on North and South Wenatchee Avenue that are unpermitted. No one is checking at this time. Heard a report from our health officer, Dr. James Wallace, who shared that measles and COVID are still a large presence in the state of Washington. Heard a report from our health officer, Kristen Hosey, which included those possible layoffs and furloughs. November 17th, also attended the mosquito board meeting via Zoom. We're discussing a supervisor position description for out in the field, meaning out doing the actual stuff with the mosquito, the water and holes and drains and tires and all kinds of places where water will stay. November 18th, I attended the city engagement night at the Fest Hall. I thought it was the best one I've ever been to. Yeah, and I mean, just even the folks that have their little gig going on had, I thought it was really good. They had a lot of good answers. And let's see, and here we are today, November 25th. Thanks for listening.
So I attended, with Shelby, I attended a river recreation meeting at Fire Hall, about 2 weeks ago, where we, discussed how we're gonna manage, and support, our commitment to the river, as far as our position. Maybe Selby will get more into that. That's kind of still working that through. The county still feels they can supply 50% of that. We're probably not going to come up with that much or any, kind of redesigning the position on the manager of that was holding it all together. So, if I butchered that up, Selby, hope you can put it back together.
Yeah, no problem.
Also, I met with Selby and Carr about the recycle center and issues around that, about closing it and what we're going to do with it. That was productive. We also, so we just basically had a meeting last week, and we're having a future meeting on the 2nd with Sustainable North Central Washington is kind of taken over Waste Loop. And so at that meeting next week, we hope to come up with some ways to handle the recycle center. The big issue is the brush and the cost of that. But that's on the agenda for next week. I also attended not sure why I did that. It was a long drive. I went all the way down to Malaga to sit in on the Port Authority's TIF and discovered another council member. Hesburgh was right there, taking it all in. Pretty amazing, packed house. But I won't try and explain that. I went there, I listened, and still trying to figure the whole thing out. And then lastly, made it to the engagement night when we had it, and also had the Upper Valley Historical Society meeting last Wednesday, and that's the end of my report. Oh, one other thing, a little celebratory note. My son Whitney went through open heart surgery on Friday, and it was very successful, and he's healing up. So grateful for that.
I attended the PRSA board meeting on November 13th. Selby gave the same presentation to the board that he gave council on October 28th, and it was very well received. We gave him direction to move forward with the proposal to have a indoor pool as part of the Osborne project and to allocate funds to hire a full-time position to spearhead this project. We also adopted the 2026 budget, signed the property tax resolution and the levy certification form. Hopefully everything is collected as it should be next year by the assessor's office. And as Chantel mentioned, we did adopt an add-on option to the season's pass. And I also attended the community engagement night last week. That's the end of my report.
Was that the library and the pool and the community center?
Right.
And so that's a go.
It's moving forward. Yeah,
Okay.
moving forward.
Okay,
It's got a lot of steps.
Yeah,
Got a lot of steps.
I was thinking there would be more.
Yeah.
A lot more. It'll take a few years.
yeah.
Rabbit?
Did you say we authorized him to hire someone? City?
Yes.
Yeah, sorry. I was listening. I was in the same meeting with Shane. Everything you said, spot on. Although with the current pool, we are going forward with the current pool. We got a couple more years left with her. We're going to go from salt water to chlorine directly, and that was accepted by the survey, which was I think it was 62 different comments on that. Lots of good stuff there. And then as you saw this evening, the family pass, just adding a new rate fee to that. Then I attended the community night. I spent some time at the parking table, fielded some good questions there. It was nice having the ARC, the garage stuff right next door to the parking table. So it's kind of like parking had like couple booths there, which lets everybody know it's how important it is right now. And everything's important, but parking is kind of this hot thing. And Selby, who is Elmer? I came up when Elmer was
Larson.
Yeah, it was great meeting him, and yeah,
He's a great guy.
great guy. You made some really good points. But speaking with some people about the parking, in the parking committee, it was interesting to hear that ARC's survey found that people do a lot of circling. And so we talk about like when we have the signs in the front and the exit of the town, people can kind of see maybe where the parking flows are, and that's going to help a lot. So they did see in their survey a lot of cars driving around looking for parking. And so we think about taking those off the street quicker, right? Less congestion. So it's kind of a cool observation to hear them say. And then it was funny. It was the parking garage. Talked about two different locations, and then at the community night, I think the Blewett was the kind of the number one location. There was, and I think it's maybe tied, or I think it's a lot of comments were keeping part of that lot open and flat, either for car shows or other multi-use, and not just doing it a garage covering all of Blewett, but also having a flat paved area. And then a couple of the things you'll get a kick out of this, Sharon, is talking about other amenities with the parking garage, either adding a bathroom or retail or a roof garden or an ice rink on the roof.
Ooh.
I asked him
about that.
There was some good paper. There was many people that had said that, and I asked him about that, and it's a fake ice rink that they would do, because I thought that would be really heavy to put an ice rink on the top. But I don't know why I thought about Sharon when he said
Boo hiss.
that's all I've got.
I was out of town for a little while, but didn't get back in time to attend the community engagement night, which was great. And the downtown steering committee was canceled. So that's all I got.
And
Mike, I hope you had a fantastic birthday trip.
Thank you.
We missed you while you were gone, but I hope you were having more fun than we were.
Yeah.
Fantastic call out about the community engagement night, Travis, specific to our parking structure. I thought that some of the options were slightly unrealistic, with regard to like what to do on the top of the parking structure. I thought that was really interesting and entertaining, but also kind of unrealistic because if we're really looking to have a added benefit with regard to tourism and optionality, having an ice rink on the roof is probably not what it is. Um, how do you have seating on the top of a roof without
Ooh.
finishing your return on your ice rink size? But we'll land on something. The committee will figure it out. As far as reports go, the parking committee had a great, very dynamic meeting this last week with regard to additional parking conversation topics. We talked about the parking garage. We had a great update from ARC with regard to their work that they have been doing. They're finishing their studies on various different sites, traffic studies, all sorts of things, and they're going to be moving into their design phase here shortly, which is very exciting. It's looking like the Asgard Blewett location is more primary than the location behind City Hall for various different reasons, but mostly for flexibility and optionality of design. But we will learn more as they get more into the design phase. We also talked about the locals permit option, the locals discount sort of situation that the community has been asking for, and had a really great dynamic conversation about that. And from that, as Selby had kind of alluded, we kind of came to a boundary of the PRSA as existing taxpayers, as well as an option to grow from potentially in the future if that PRSA boundary eventually changes. But landing on a $1 an hour for a maximum of 3 hours for locals within that boundary would be a great starting point. And we also talked about the employee pass and the monthly payment associated with that in the northern parking lots where that would be valid, providing optionality for employers and employees alike within our community to create options for them so that they don't continue to flow into our residential districts. I also attended the Link Transit meeting for the month, and we landed on a budget for 2026. And included in that is a diversification of route options, building on existing routes, and a balanced fiscal budget. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Just briefly, you know, the housing committee released its request for ideas, basically. And it's generated a couple of conversations that I hope will could move something forward, we hope. So that's kind of exciting. Yeah, and that's the extent of mine. So
Thanks, Mayor. I wasn't going to talk about this, but he asked me to. What the city proposed was to match the county 50-50. We put $50,000 of lodging tax dollars towards the river recreation manager position, which they were going to match. That was the plan. That's what we put in the budget. That's not what happened. When I met with county staff last year, they, as Ann has alluded to multiple times this year, they're in a budget deficit. They didn't have the funds to offer. What they said was, we have someone who we lost grant funding for, who has capacity, who could do this work. So that's why we decided to do it a trial basis. And from my perspective, it didn't work well. It does not work for the city to have a county employee trying to make decisions for the city. Also, it was said that this has always been, in that presentation, it's always been a 50-50 effort between the county and the city. I take issue with that statement. When the county approached me about updating the river recreation plan from 2021 in 2023, the expectation was that the city would pay for all of it. I pushed back and I said, no, if the county pays for half, we'll pay for half. And it took them many months, and then they did come up with the money and we paid for that plan. Following year, the county reached out to me and asked me if I would arrange for and pay for a river recreation shuttle as one of the action plans, which I did. Did they offer to pony up a single dollar for that service? No. I did it again this year. Did the county pay towards it? No. And through the duration of this program, as additional ideas have come up, it's always been, will the city pay? Will the city pay? Will the city pay? Never has the county offered to split anything 50-50. So I'm sorry, I might sound a little upset about this, but that meeting that we attended was a setup. I felt attacked. It was set up to make me and the city look bad for stating that we are no longer going to be contributing that $50,000 for a county staff employee to do this work. It does not mean we will not coordinate with the county, does not mean that we don't believe in managing river recreation. But what has come to light is that the concern is on Icicle Creek and we have zero jurisdiction on Icicle Creek.
Right.
The concern is not the Wenatchee River where we own a put-in, where we own 2 takeouts. That's what's in our jurisdiction. That's what we can manage.
Right.
And that's where we'll put our funding and we'll put our effort towards. We won't put our effort towards fish habitat, river restoration, or anything that's outside our jurisdiction or outside the guidelines of lodging tax. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah.
We do have a meeting next week with Mike Caputa from the county to talk about a future. And the way I look at it as Mike said in that meeting, most of the stakeholders in that group are also a part of the Icicle work group. And if the concern is the impact of the Icicle, well, maybe this is something that should be taken on as part of the Icicle work group. And with a third-party moderator and not the city paying for a county staff member who has county biases to do this work on behalf of the city.
Okay.
Thanks for the clarification.
Yeah.
We can talk about the recycling center later when I'm not so worked up.
Is that the end of your report or?
No, I was very happy that the PRSA also strongly supported the idea of incorporating an indoor pool with the Osborne Community Center and Library project. I think that combining all of these things into one would give us something that everybody's going to be truly proud to be a part of. I'm very excited about that. And we do have a job description for what we're calling a recreation and tourism manager position. And that will be on the salary schedule that you guys will be adopting at the next meeting. And then we'll go ahead and post after that.
And the people that live around that square get free admission and everything. For putting up with.
In earplugs
Yeah,
and.
only for 6 up to 6.
Okay. All right, Chantel.
Thank you, Mayor. No change in the pool loan since the last meeting. However, I have not received my 80,000 quite yet. There was a document being passed through for you all to sign. That's a signature document for the county who's being audited right now. So when we approve requesting our money for PRSA, we all have to sign off on that document and they need proof that when you sign that document, it's your signature. So that's what that form was tonight, if you happen to notice it when you signed it. I do want to say thank you for giving us the flexibility with the claims checks and being able to make claims runs every single week. It's not intended to be full claims runs every week, but it has already proven to be helpful on Vanessa's part in the fact that we are paying our vendors faster. And so when we get a statement, it doesn't show that we have past due balances that we have to look up to see if we paid them or not. And also the checks are being cashed sooner by the vendors as well, which is avoiding the late fees. So just a few weeks in, it has made a tremendous difference. So thank you for that. PRSA, one more, and this is just kind of a question and answer, 2 things with this. The first one is when we did the interfund transfer from lodging tax to the pool, it's 25% of our operations and maintenance. But with this year, we had the extra low capital. We did have a short season. I can stick to just that operations and maintenance, but I'm asking you if you're okay if I do the operations and maintenance and the capital as that 25% transfer. which would equate out to what it would have been if we had had a full season with operations and maintenance by itself. So no change in the budget, but it is keeping that same 25% on all expenses this year. Is that something that everyone feels pretty comfortable with?
Yeah.
We got a 1, we got a 2, we got a 3, 4.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you get. No change in the budget. The second one is we do want to schedule a joint meeting in the future with you guys, just because we've never had these two boards get together. And the Osborne is a huge deal, and there's going to be a lot of legs there. So we were looking ahead thinking, well, let's get through this new hire process, see how things start rolling with that. And we also may have some turnover with your committee assignments in January with new members coming on board. So we didn't want to do it too soon. We wanted to wait just a little bit. The PRSA does meet in January, but again, your assignments won't happen until I think the first meeting in February. So we're thinking, if possible, could this board join the PRSA's March 12th meeting? That is a Thursday, second Thursday of the month, and the committee meets from 3 to 5 p.m. And we do have Zoom. So for those who are working, could Zoom in on that joint meeting as well.
Chantel,
Yes.
are you asking the whole council to join the PRSA meeting?
Yeah. So kind of like a PC council joint meeting, but in this case, it would be the PRSA and the city council. Alternatively, I can ask them at their next meeting in January if they can all come to yours instead. But we thought we'd reach out to you first and see if that was a viable option.
Yes.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
viable for me, but
Works for me.
I mean, you're talking the second Thursday
in March.
in March.
In March,
I mean,
the second Thursday, yeah.
We're gonna be at March.
And
It's hard with work already navigating city council stuff and during the workday. I don't want to be the problem. I'll try and navigate it if we really need to
Forget about it by March
if we
anyway.
really need to meet at 3, but if there's a way that we can incorporate this into a study session, I think that would be really beneficial.
oh, that's a good idea.
yeah,
Good
We could do a
feedback.
study session.
Yeah. Why don't I just plan on reaching out to the PRSA in January at their first meeting, and we'll just talk with them about that, and maybe we'll look at a March study session with
Okay.
you folks instead of with them.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, thank you. That was it.
All right, Maggie.
All right, I just have a few things. We received a multifamily project application for 303 Whitman, which is right behind us. That project just went out for public comment, so it's available. There's on our public portal, there's a link to, if you just put in 303 Whitman or use the map, you can find it. I'm looking for public input on that. There'll also be an ad in the paper. The planning commission meeting next week, we have a hearing on the new triplexes and residential design standards that we were discussing the last few months. That will be coming to council as a just discussion before another hearing. So you'll have time to review their proposal before it goes to hearing review. We'll also be talking about CUP criteria. I did put out an ad for 2026 docket items. The public can submit through the end of the year for their request for city sponsorship. We still accept privately sponsored applications through the end of January. And then we'll have our joint meeting with the planning commission in January as well to set that docket. The Welcome and Flieger Annex request has been submitted to Chelan County Boundary Review Board for review and processing. We probably won't hear anything for another month or so. But I'll keep you posted on that. And then our community development team met with Mike Smith and Nathan Richmond today. And it was really great just to talk about better open communication, how we can work together to collaborate on processing permits better, review permits, and make the create, people who are wanting to open new businesses, making it easier for them. How can we all work together to make that process a little more helpful? So we're gonna try to meet at least once a month to just check in with each other, make sure things are going well. And then, but we did a new B&B was approved on Cedar Street. It's a 1-bedroom ADU. It was approved by the hearing examiner and just received its inspection. So another one's online. That's all I have. Thank you.
All right, Andy.
Just a couple quick staffing updates. I think Selby's Eagle mentioned that we hired Ben Larson as our new wastewater treatment operator. And then we hired Mark Oberman as our new streets and utility maintenance worker. And then the only other item to update you on, I've mentioned before, the cross connection control program will be coming back to you. I just took a really great 2-day class on that, I think just last week. So I'm working on policy edits and code revisions for that to bring back to you, hopefully, either in December, well, realistically, January. And that's all I have.
Great. All right, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor? Got it. Yay.
Bye, Stevie.
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Who's going to campus? I am.
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Campus pub crawl, Friday,
I gotta get my calendar ready to go.
Dog?